Welcome back to the GDQ Hotfix. My name is Dangerous, and this is Crosshair, the show that brings you runs with bullets. First-person shooters, third-person shooters, shmups, bullet hells, lasers, rockets, grenades, paintballs, and shotgun shells. If it's got bullets in it, it's got a home here at Crosshair. And if you think you've got a run that qualifies for this or any of our other GDQ Hotfix shows, head on over to gamesdonequick.com/hotfix and fill out the run submission form. Who knows? You may end up on a future episode of the GDQ Hotfix. Folks, there's no hiding this one. If you look over to my left or right, you'll see our run of show today has one common thread through it. We're going to be wrapping up the day with Destiny 2 Root of Nightmares, a 4-player campaign, but it's going to be done by one guy. -338 is going to be showing us that. But before that, we've got a little bit of a special duo that also comes from Bungie, Marathon 1 and Marathon 2. So today's episode is titled Bungo-Thon. All you Destiny 2 fans in chat will appreciate that one. So to start us off, we've got TBCR, who is actually our first recurring guest here on Crosshair. Was on previously for commentary and is now being brought in as a runner. So, Mr. TBCR, show us Marathon and Marathon 2.
Hello there, everyone. It's Soul Teebs here. And yeah, we have Marathon, originally released in 1994 for the Apple Macintosh, 68 km power PC. It's a somewhat sequel to Pathways into Darkness from 1993, which is kind of like a dungeon crawler. I consider it a dungeon crawler more than an FPS, but regardless. This is one of my main speed games. Marathon 1, 2, and Infinity. I speedrun all three of them. I've done some of them at certain events. You may have seen runs for those. And this is, well, you'll see. It's going to be a pretty interesting run. Anyway. Let us get going because there's going to be a lot to talk about in a very short amount of time. So I'm going to hit begin new game in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
All right. Plot. You're a security officer at the USC Marathon. I messed up for a bit. But yeah, you're a security officer at the USC Marathon. You are on shore leave, or rather you're returning from shore leave to find out that the Alien 4 race is invading the Marathon, which is currently trying to get to Tau City. You know this if you've seen the stuff of the new game. And it's up to you and the AI to stop the invasion. Well, now, I say the AI. There's some of the AI that, well, Tico is not here. Well, they're in the secret terminal. Lilo's trying her best, and Durandal is having a bad day. Gee, I wonder why he's having a bad day. Maybe we'll find out during this run. But similar to Halo, this is an objective-based FPS. There are multiple objective types. This one is exploration, somewhat, but it doesn't really matter because it's just get to the end. And the objective types in general are exploration, extermination, repair, retrieval. I think there's one more, but it's rarely seen in the whole franchise as a whole. Anyway, let's finish this level up. I don't want to use the AR too much. It's a big gun, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to use it up too much because we don't start with a lot of ammo for a little bit into the game.
That makes sense.
All right, so this is retrieval. We have 3 chips that we're going to have to pick up here. 2 of them at this spot here, and then the third one's going to be at the very end of the map because there was a malfunction in synthesizing the chip. I cleared out my pistol ammo because you have to manually empty the clip to reload, so that I had enough to deal with any enemies where that door was at. Now we're going to take a little bit of a detour here, and we're going to get our ×3 health, or shields, early into the run. Trying to get those wasps out of the way. And then we're going to pick up some invincibility, which I believe we have about a minute with. So I need to make do with what I have. And we're going to do some grenade jumps, some damaging to enemies like that with splash damage. And if I'm lucky, we'll get an elevator skip. All right. All right, so on the counterattack, this level is very intense at the start of it because we have a few cycles we have to deal with. 2 total. There is a global cycle with a bunch of crushers at the end of the map. And there is a cycle with an elevator as well. that we're trying to get onto. So there's the elevator. Let's see if I can get the skip. Nope. That's fine.
Almost.
It's hard to get it. You have a very tight window of frames that you can really
It looks like it, yeah.
shoot the grenade. All right, now I'm going to try to snipe a switch from a distance with a grenade. So wish me luck here. Yep.
Nice. Sniping with a grenade.
Oh, I snipe with a shotgun in the next game. I tend to do that for some reason. All right, so we're making good progress right now. That would have been bad, but I didn't get hit by the grenade there. And if I get this cycle, I will save 10 seconds, and the map will end at 1:24. But yeah, looks like we'll get 1:24, unless something bad happens in here. Now, the fun thing about repair missions is, for some reason in this game, you only have to do one part of it. And in this case, you only have to hit that one panel.
Interesting.
That's not the case with the other two games. It's just solely this game.
Huh. Weird.
I think it's just the assumption that you would do the objectives fully. I mean, that makes sense. Like, why would you intentionally only do a little bit of it and see if you could leave?
Yeah, true.
That would be weird. All right, so we're gonna do a grenade jump up to here. I'm gonna make a save. It's very important I save during this run because there is a lot of danger to not saving, because when you die, you go back to your last save. And if you haven't saved at all, guess what that means you go back to? That's right, the beginning. All right, so here is the rose. This is an extermination mission. I don't like this objective type. You have to kill all but 8 enemies.
All but 8.
And there's RNG with how the enemies spawn. So it's going to be a bit of a fun finding out which ones I do have to kill and which ones I don't. But I'm going to give Dangerous some time.
Oh, you bet.
If he needs to talk about anything.
I've always got things to talk about.
This is a good time to do
folks, if you're a streamer with a community that loves to support charitable causes, you can today apply to become an SGDQ ambassador. You can join our group of creators that will be raising money for Doctors Without Borders this upcoming June, and selected streamers will raise money for the charity and have the chance to attend the event as a special guest of GDQ and Doctors Without Borders, MSF. You use !SGDQ ambassadors in chat for more info and apply by April 27th. That's only a few days away, so you don't have a lot of time to apply for it. So if you're interested, be sure to get your application in as soon as you can.
And now we're going to head to the titular part of the rose. Also, that ambassador thing's a pretty good thing. All right, so we have to deal with the journal with our bullet sponges. For the most part, there's only like 3 or 4 that you're actually going to directly interact with, other than the one at the beginning of the map. And luckily on this difficulty, they don't take too long to go down. On higher difficulties like Total Carnage and whatnot, oh boy.
You mean a difficulty called Total Carnage is difficult?
You know what the funny thing is? Major Damage, which is the difficulty below it, is actually harder because on Total Carnage you don't have an ammo cap on Total Carnage. So if you really want to have a hard experience, you do it on Major Damage. I forgot to get these 2 enemies right here. All right. So now we're heading out of the rose and heading towards the exit. Now, if I don't have all but 8, Leela's going to be very upset and is going to tell me I need to go find some more enemies to kill. So let's see if we got it. Oh, come on, Bob. And Mads. All right, there we go. Uh-oh. Leela said the thing. I think I know where. Wow, I can't believe the Mads are not doing their job. Can you believe this, chat? Not even fighting these enemies. I swear. Shake my head. All right, now we can finish. All right, now onto the very interestingly named Smells Like Napalm, Tastes Like Chicken. It's very cold. I have an AC blowing directly on my back right now. Sorry. It's another repair mission, and we're going to... Well, we've already done the job. Now we're going to do a fun jump right here. Extra grenade just to make sure I make it up there. Hit that switch, and used to, we would actually use the 7-4 time signature of the track playing chamber to time out the button hits here. And then we realized through the magic of looking at the map that we could just do a grenade jump right here and then end the level.
Nice.
A lot of the recent developments literally come down to looking at the map, unironically. All right, so here we go. Going to do another grenade jump. Need to make sure I have 2x health. I have been able to do this in one grenade hit before. In fact, a couple weeks back, I was able to do it. All right, let's shoot here. And head into the only vacuum level of the game. You see that nice blue bar there that's been sitting pretty the entire time? Well, it's now going to actually deplete. And it's not going to matter too much because this level is short enough. I think it's like 1.5 minutes will be here total. But in other games, that oxygen bar is definitely something to pay attention to because if that runs out, you die.
That makes sense.
All right, got a fit compiler right there I want to avoid. I do want to kind of avoid them if at all possible because there is a little closet here that's going to open up that I need to hit a switch on that I don't want one blocking because it's going to take a bit of time to actually kill them. Because the pistol can only fire but so much. Might turn down my headset volume in just a second. I think I'm a little bit too loud as well for me. Because I have basically what you're hearing is what I'm hearing in terms of mic audio. So, all right, so we did the objective. We're going to head to the exit. Actually, you know what? We're going to go get some health. Let's go get some health. We're also going to get the fusion pistol for its only use in this and I think 2 levels from now. All right, turn the volume down. Whoop. Would help to actually have my hands on the keyboard properly. And then we're going to exit. All right, now on to Blasphemy Quarantine. This level is fairly straightforward because we can skip most of it. It's an exploration level. In Marathon 1 compared to 2 in Infinity, you only have to look at said polygons that you have to explore. In the other 2 games, you have to actually go and touch them. So we're just going to jump up to here and then do another jump up. There we go. We looked at the polygon, and now we're going to head down to here. And then carefully sneak around. Get some health. With a terminal read, we're done with counterattack. On to reprisal, and there's a green bob I want to avoid. Good, we avoided them. That green bob ruins so many runs, you have no idea. I can shoot a grenade there, give enough splash damage to that hunter so that we can kill them with bullets as soon as we go down there. A little bit of a timing puzzle here, but that's fine. And now on to Shake Before Using. This level is what I like to call the trap level. There are really just 2 traps, but technically there's 3. And the first one's pretty straightforward. The second one's kind of evil if you don't understand how physics work in the game. This is the first one. The second one, I'm going to shoot a grenade so I'm up in the air. If I'm on that polygon right there that just plummeted, I would have been dragged down with it. And then the third trap is this very narrow corridor, which some runners of this game like to do while strafing. Don't know why they would want to do that. All right. Now we just got to get to the end. Okay, on to Durandal. That was Durandal, by the way. That's the only AI that's had an actual, like, physical appearance in any way, shape, or form in the entire franchise so far. All right, so we're about to head into my, I wouldn't say least favorite level, second least favorite level of the game. But first we're going to have a bit of a health recharge. And then I'm going to be absolutely silent during this first part because I got to concentrate on this level.
Well, then, tell you what, I'll let you concentrate and I can read off another one of my announcements. Folks, just so you know, GDQ is hiring. If you love creative work and have experience in planning and organizing, you can apply to be a prize assistant at our mainline events. Visit gamesdonecquick.com/jobs by May 11th to apply.
Those beetles, the lookers, were really terrifying me right there because normally they would blow up when I shoot at them, but apparently my aim was not that great. I don't know why I didn't point this out until now. This game has no hit scan, by the way. There's no hit scan. Every single projectile is an actual bullet flying in the air, hitting the enemies. I know that's wild. This game came out in 1994 for the Macintosh on a 68K processor and PowerPC. And there's no hit scan.
That is actually wild.
So when I miss an enemy, it's because I missed the enemy. All right, I gotta burn a grenade here. I didn't get them. That's fine. We're gonna do a jump here, and then we're gonna hit big concentration mode because the next level is my least favorite level in the whole game.
Oh,
yes.
No.
All right. How about quit 'em? Oh, how I count the ways of how much I do not like this level. This level is very frustrating in a speedrun setting because, well, as you can see, I'm on fringe health right now. At least I saved.
Oh.
Ooh.
Oh. Oh.
All right, got it.
Oh.
Just gonna hop over the window, and then we get the charge. Oh, but that ain't all. Now we actually have to play the level. So how we start this is I have to hit a switch to open up the second half of the level. We have to pick up an energy converter for Durandal, who at this point has taken us and basically has us at his will. And I need to make sure I don't lose too much health because then I'm going to have to take a very unnecessary detour to get more health. Uh-oh. Thank goodness that isn't an activate once. I may not have enough health to get back. We'll see. No, I'm gonna have to go for the safety. Let me save before I do this because I know what's ahead.
Probably a good idea.
Okay. That's one of the things that's ahead. All right, so let's quickly heal. I'm moving my mouse off the... Come on. I'm moving my mouse off the desk to make sure that I don't accidentally move while charging, because if you move the mouse too much, it stops charging. Pretty straightforward. All right, so here we go. Gonna do a jump up to here. We're gonna recharge again because I need to do a very tricky jump and I don't wanna have to come over here and recharge again if I have to do a second try. All right. So we're just gonna sit here and hopefully it's gonna be a 1 damage jump. Yep, good. Weird stair physics to the rescue.
Well done.
All right, so let's go and charge here. I'm gonna do some careful strafing around these columns. And then I'm gonna move far enough that I can get these enemies out of the way. I'm gonna empty my clip, reopen the door, and then just skip what they're asking me to do. All right, good stuff. Now, I'm gonna heal to ×3, and then we get to probably my favorite stretch of the game, which is the 4 ship levels. Shout outs to Reginald DeJour, who was the creator of these levels. They are absolutely fantastic. One of the highest points of this game, in my opinion, because they feel absolutely alien. Speaking of aliens, I picked up the weapon from that alien. It's a pellet gun, more or less. It also has a random amount of ammo. We're going to be using these against some enemies later in the run. And by later in the run, I mean the second to last level of the game.
Okay.
It's just good to have them on hand ahead of time. All right, so this is another exploration level. I have to look very carefully, especially in that room, to make sure I'm touching all the polygons that I need to. We'll deal with that 4 enforcer. And then we're going to cruise over to here. All right, cool. Now we're on No Artificial Colors. Yes, that is the name of the level. And this is one of 2 break levels where we actually go back to the marathon to do stuff. And in this case, we have to look down a hallway and then make our way back from where we came. Just getting an enemy out of the way ahead of time. My mind's like a mile a minute right now. Apologies. There's a lot going on in this run.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot
run,
going on.
I believe it.
All right, so to get that switch, we're gonna hop over, and then we're going to look into this hallway, and then we're gonna make our way back, and then we're essentially done with the level. We've looked at everything.
Like a museum level.
It is. And then we're going to charge ×3, and I'm going to do a somewhat tricky jump because sometimes I do miss this because there's a base value to the grenades and then there's an additional value added on top of it. So sometimes you'll make the first part of that jump, but not the second part, clearing that gap. So kind of had to plan out if I had to walk around or not. All right, these 4 exploding bobs here are guarding the very important treasure of this flamethrower. But that's fine, we got the flamethrower. We're not gonna use it too much. There's like a few levels. I know the next level is definitely gonna have it. By the way, if you suffer from anything regarding blinking lights, this is not the segment to watch. I'm mentioning that now. I should have mentioned that earlier. It completely passed my mind.
It's fine, as long as we know. That's good to know. So
yeah, because it really only doesn't happen until like this stretch where it gets really bad. In other levels, it's like very slight sections, but this is where it's really in your face with it. All right, so this is also an exploration level, I should point out. I haven't been saying what objective types for most of the levels they've been, because again, there's a lot going on. But yeah, most of the levels for the alien ship levels are going to be exploration. There is one extermination level, but it's also an exploration level at the same time. And is, as far as I know, the only multi-objective level of the entire franchise.
Interesting.
Also, enjoy the 4 noise when they get killed by the flamethrower. I love it. It's such a great noise. All right. By the way, people talking about the level names, guess what this level's called? That's right, 2 times 2 equals. Because it equals 4.
Oh, Bungie.
The last level before No Artificial Colors was called For Your Eyes Only. And then there's Euphoria, Phorophobia. Ain't got time for this.
What on earth?
All right, so let's finish this level up. Just got to go to about halfway into this room. Stop here, teleport out, good. This used to be a shopping level, but I pick up enough in No Artificial Colors that I've just decided to skip picking stuff up here. So we're just gonna go straight to the end. This level introduces rogue mads, which will shoot at you, but luckily we don't stay in the level long enough for that to really be an issue. All right, Euphoria. This level, I have to be very careful because I could accidentally not look at something I'm supposed to be looking at. And it's gonna waste a lot of time. Oh, hi, Hunter. Bye, Hunter. All right, cool. Gonna look into these. Gonna look over here. Cool. Gonna go down here to get a better look at this hallway. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Now we're gonna make our way back. Can't believe that wasp blocked me. Can't believe it. That's fine. We're gonna come up to here. Gonna carefully maneuver through these hunters. Make our way to this teleporter right here. And then I'm gonna deal with these 2 hunters so I can actually charge in peace. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get 1 polygon looked at ahead of time so I don't have to worry about it. I found out you can actually see it from right there. Aperture pointed it out to me. Aperture Grills, who is also one of the runners of this game. All right. I wish I didn't have to go all the way into this room and shoot these enemies. However, due to how the polygons are set, they won't actually hear the guns going off, so you actually have to let them see you before they go active. All right, gonna shoot a grenade right there. Get those 3-4 fighters out of the way. Can deal with the compiler with a grenade. Gonna open and close that door. Well, not a door. And then make sure I got everything here. Looks like I have. Glanced at the radar at the bottom left. All right, cool. Gonna head into here. Got a few more enemies I have to kill. And we're gonna do the ending in a pretty fun way. I'm gonna use a rocket launcher. I haven't been able to use it at all during this entire run. This will be the first time I get to use it.
Ooh.
Such a good noise. All right. So first, I'm going to switch over to my AR. I'm going to let those 3 enemies, including the important enemy, the cyborg controller, take a death. And then we get to deal with these enemies one at a time until it teleports us out. Good stuff. All right, so I'm going to hop into this trench. Going to lose some health. And then we're going to hit a button, and I'm going to need absolute silence for this because I have to hear a fart noise. I'm serious. All right, so here we go. All right, there's the fart. And there we go. I'm going to look at the ground to kind of help with the blinking lights. There we go.
You said you needed silence, so I said, okay, I won't say anything. And then you said, I need to listen for a fart noise. And I had questions at that point, but I couldn't ask them because you needed silence.
Well, it's a hard to hear noise considering what's going on in the level.
Yeah, fair. It's just like, what on earth?
All right, I have some good news. We're on the last chapter of the game. We're actually 3 levels to the end right now. Welcome to the revolution. Wow. This level is a repair. Well, actually, I don't even think this is a repair. I think this is... I don't even know what the objective is for this. All I know is I have to get to the end to a terminal. And there's 2 ways you can get to it. You can hit that switch or you can hit another switch on the other side of this area. And it opens up the opposite wall door right there, to which we can head in. I'm going to waste a grenade real quick. That wasn't a good idea. Because those 5th compilers will go against you if you damage them. But we got through it relatively unscathed, and now we're in Try Again, which is named that because if you die in the next level, well, you try again. Not a joke. That's literally why it's called that. All right, so this introduces the Juggernauts. You're going to be seeing them a little bit more in the next game. However, they only show up in this level. They all have to be killed. And the reason why we picked up the alien weapon earlier in the run is because we need it to quick kill the Juggernauts because higher rate of fire, good amount of bullets, and deals a decent bit of damage. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, you can kill one with just the alien weapon. All right. I was going to use a rocket launcher here, but I've decided not to. I am going to top off on ammo, though, and save. Because I haven't saved in a good bit. Especially since I have encountered dying in this particular room. Nope, don't want that. Gonna deal with these enemies ahead of time. Because they will block me if I don't. Alright. Cool. Oh, I need to waste this. Right, there we go. Because I still have one more Juggernaut I'm going to have to deal with. And I'm going to quickly get to a little bit over ×3. Okay. Just check in there to make sure there's no enemies. The spawn points are usually set locations in the game. Rarely will the game just randomly spawn an enemy in a weird spot. So there's very dependable places we can look. All right, good.
The design on those things is so weird.
Yeah, they streamline it a little bit more in the next game. I do like Marathon 1's art style. It's very cartoony. In fact, the whole series is very cartoony, but this is the most cartoony of the bunch. Now I found out I don't actually have to fight this enemy. I can just leave.
Nice.
Anyway, you were saying I did interrupt you.
Oh, I was gonna say like the audio seems more cartoony even than the visuals do. Oh, GG. Well done.
All right, what was that? Was like a 28-ish, I think. It was
28-18, I think.
That's not bad. Like my PB is a 26:06, I think, right now.
Well, hey, that's not bad at all, especially for a run this short. Not bad. Well done. Alrighty, and then we've also got Marathon 2 coming up right after this as well. Welcome back to Crosshair and our running show called Bungo-Thon. We'll be kicking it off with game number 2, also by TBCR, running Marathon 2. So TBCR, show us what you got.
Hello again. So Marathon 2 Durandal came out 1 year after the original. It is on a substantially... Oh, it did the demo. That actually threw me off. It is on a substantially overhauled engine somewhat. I mean, instead of music, there's ambient noise you can hear here. And the objectives are a little bit different with how you have to do them, mainly just exploration. But it's still that good objective gameplay that you see in the first game in Infinity and then later in Halo and whatnot. So with that in mind, we're going to get going. This run's a little bit longer, but we have a few breakpoints, so that's good. It's not just going to be a constant, one after the other. So with that said, we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
All right, so 17 years after the original game, Durandal has woken you up and say, hey, we need to go do some stuff. And you're like, okay. So anyway, first level, Waterloo Water Park. We're going to go put a chip or 2 into some slots, but we're also going to take a little bit of a detour here. This is a route I've been specifically doing as of recent, and my recent PB that I made yesterday, or actually early this morning. Not early this morning, yesterday. It starts doing because I want to have as much ammo and the AR heading into the 4th level because it's the first extermination mission of the game. And yeah, that's basically why I do it. All right, so we got a switch here. We do have a little bit of a timing thing that we're gonna have to do, but it's fine. You just walk in, put the other chip in, and then we can just cruise into the exit. Now on to Slings and Arrows of Outrageous Fortune, which is just a get to the end level. It is, for the most part, an exploration level, but the polygon that you have to actually touch is literally right in front of the terminal. So yeah, it's just get to the end. Trying to avoid some enemies there. The wasps have been swapped out with drones, and the drones can actually be on your side in certain levels. You'll see those with the yellow eyes instead of the red eyes. Oh, got the Flicta here as well. And they were not playing nice with me, but that's fine. I can just punch them. I didn't also mention that. Yeah, you deal more damage when you run. Ooh, sorry, Tick. All right, so we touched the polygon that we're going to have to touch, which is in that lit room. It's slowly flooding up, but that's fine. We're out before it really matters. And then we're going to carefully strafe run up that. And then we're going to pick up some ammo for the next level. Switch over to my AR ahead of time. Do a swerve there, read the terminal, and now we head into volunteers. So, I do not like this level. I'm just going to outright say it. I do not like this level, and a lot of runners of this game do not like this level because it has the potential to soft lock if you're not careful.
Oh no.
Because this opening room has the fun, penchant to, if you don't kill the enemies in it, to just have them despawn. And since they are not dead, they're despawned, they still count towards the total. In the Xbox version, that behavior is fixed. They die because the entire map's loaded in because it's rendered in actual 3D, but this is a 2.5D game. So we have to make absolutely sure we kill enough enemies. And to make sure I do that, I'm making a hard save right here just to be safe in case I have to redo this later. All right, so we have 2 panels we're also going to have to destroy, and we're also going to hit that again just to be safe. And then we're going to make our way towards the quote-unquote halfway point of the level, where we're filling the bottom up with lava. It's going to get the enemies that are remaining, hopefully. And we're going to head back to the surface to take out the rest of the enemies. Now, you may notice I'm doing jumps backwards instead of forwards, and it's mainly due to where the grenade hits your feet. It's different in this game and in Infinity. And Durandal on Xbox and Marathon 1, it is forward jumps, as I call them, instead of backwards jumps. Now, backwards jumps have the added caveat of being absolutely terrifying sometimes to do because you don't know where you're going. And that will be very obvious in the second half. And in some levels in the first half. But let's finish up the first half first. That's a weird way to word that sentence. But before we continue onward, we're going to take a quick heal and then see the word boomer on a ship. All right. Come and take your medicine is a very short level. The objective is literally at the start.
You see, they kept the naming scheme going.
So we've finished the level, and now we're going to head back to the start. Oh, it gets worse in Infinity. There's a level called A Converted Church in Venice, Italy. All right, so now we're everywhere, and we have one switch we're going to have to hit, and we have a little bit of walking to get to it, and I'm not going to fire any of my bullets, if at all possible, because I want to do a little bit of boosting. Actually, you know what? I'll empty this clip. What the heck? All right, so now I'm going to face this wall, and then strafe backwards so I can get a little bit of speed. The Bobs will deal with the hunters. But we are just going to head straight into the exit terminal right here. Into Garrison. And now we're in Ex Cathedra. Now this level is actually interesting because it's based off of like actual architecture. I forgot the full story, but yeah, like the level design is actually inspired by like an actual like prayer building that one of the map makers saw in a book, I believe. But what matters, at least in the context of the run, is this is a repair mission. We're going to put this chip in. We've healed up the ×2 early. And then we're going to hop into this well for a deep thought and put a chip in. Whoop. That's fine. Pick up some more ammo. And then, since we have a little bit of extra time, because when I put that chip in, the lift is slowly going up, and it's going to hit the top, and it's going to go down. And if I did the chip first and then get health, we would be really pushing it. So I just get the health first and then put the chip in. Wow, what a lucky shot. All right. Now we nuke and pave, which is the name of the level. And it has a very, very tricky backwards jump. And you're going to see this and you're going to be like, whoa. All right. Hard turn to get onto a platform. We're going to shoot a grenade to hit that switch. And then I'm going to hide in this little hidey hole. And I'm going to take a sip of my soda, because I only get about 2 breaks to actually do that this run. There's a lot of talking in this run. All right. Now on to Curiouser and Curiouser, which is another repair mission. We have a few panels we're going to have to smash. Oh, I won't get health. I am going to make a safety save on the next level, though, just as a precaution. Because in normal runs, you wouldn't save, and the next level would be a run ender if you didn't get the trick in it. That's the fun thing about speedrunning Marathon. There's a lot of tricks where, yeah, your run's done if you don't get it. There's no, like, improvising to, like, catch up. You're just done.
Rip.
But that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to burn 2 grenades here. And I'm going to backwards air hover. Oh, that always terrifies me. And I'm going to swoosh into Citadel with Eat It, Vidboy. Now I'm going to carefully manipulate these enemies so I don't get blocked by them. And then we're going to do a fun elevator jump. There we go. Fun elevator jump, everyone. Very fun. Alright, actually, I won't use up all the ammo. I'll use it right there to hop that. I'm going to hit that switch, and then we're going to intentionally damage ourselves to cross this gap a little bit faster. That's a recent thing I've started to do.
That's cool.
And then a bunch of funky movement. Because I have to walk a specific way for certain conditions in the map to be met to open up the second half and also do the objective right. All right, so now we're going to do the only forward jump, really, of the whole game, which is to hop up into this little ledge. And we're taking a little bit of a shortcut to reach where the objective is. Now, I should point out, yeah, again, this is a 2.5D game. And the fun thing about 2.5D engine games, you see this sometimes in Doom, is you can just do this and hit switches through columns and walls and doors and whatnot. So we just completed the objective without actually doing what they're expecting us to do, which is to go up and hit a switch and go do some other things. No, we just hit the switch and get on with our day.
I mean, that's just speedrunning in general.
Yeah. All right, so let's leave. We're going to have a single file line here. No, they're just scattered about. Very disappointed. All right, onto the hard stuff rules. Now, this level is very important because I do have to pick up the ×2 health that is right here on the... Ooh, that was weird. They're caught in the thing. I need to pick up that ×2 health on the Xbox version. It's already spawned in. You do have to manually spawn it in this version. And then we're going to do a very careful backwards jump here. Sometimes we'll get blocked by the Flicta Yetis there. Oh, we got lucky there. Okay, maybe we didn't. How much health do I have? I can do it. All right, that sped me up a little bit. I don't know if it sped me up as much as I want. Cool. Now on to Bob's big date. He's got a big bow tie and he's ready for it.
These names, man.
We're going to shoot a grenade there to damage the 2 hunters and the 4 trooper. That way, when we come over to here, we can get them out of the way very carefully. And we're also trying to beat a cycle because, as you can see, the water is going up and down a lot. And we want to get into here before it goes down. And we did. Now I'm going to make a safety save because the next level has 9 spawns and I have to do a very careful grenade jump. And if I mess up, I'm going back multiple levels if I don't do this. So, gotta get it now. In fact, we'll go all the way back to Vidboy if I didn't save there. Good spawn? No, bad spawn. Not the worst spawn. That's a little bit farther down. But one of the bad spawns. I think there's like 3 spawn points right there. Normally there's like 8 spawns for a map. This one has 9 for some reason. That does mean, though, there's RNG even to where you start in the map, which that's fun. All right, here we go. 2, 3. Made it. That jump used to terrify me.
GG.
All right. Hey, we're on that chapter that we were in last game. Durandal. Oh, no, I don't need to hit that. Had a brain fart for a second. All right, there we go. Gonna get that bob out of the way. And we're going to try to get through this section. This level is named after a Bruce Cockburn song called If I Had a Rocket Launcher, I'd Make Somebody Pay. That is the full name of the level, by the way. And you do get a rocket launcher. We're not going to pick it up just yet. Got to hit the switch. And then, pick up the rocket launcher. And now we're going to listen very carefully for the door to open. And then 8 seconds after this starts, we have to fire the rockets to go over the wall. Or the bulkhead. That's a better term. 8. Yes, that's the bare minimum time. Good stuff. Okay, on to... I forgot the level of this name, but you may recognize this. This is basically reusing sections from the map in Marathon 1. And we're just gonna fling ourselves up to here. Sorry, don't make it so. That's the name of the level. And we're heading into a secret teleporter so we can skip straight to the end. A little bit faster. We don't have to drink coolant. And now for Carnage, apply within. It's very straightforward, get to the end. It's an exploration level, but the polygon is at the very front of the terminal, right there. And now we get into the fun level. Begging for mercy makes me angry. And this level is very important because it is probably one of the longest levels of the entire game. There are 8 switches, 8 rooms, 8 panels. I go into the room, I hit the switch, I go out, I hit the panel, I repeat. As soon as I hit the last one, I teleport out and we begin what I call the second half of the run, but we're already in the second half of the run as is. I call it the second half because of the fact that you start with basically nothing. So we're just gonna focus on hitting these switches. We're gonna go out of 2 here. We're gonna hit 2, which is this. Notice I'm sniping with the shotgun. This is very important.
As one does.
I had to burn some ammo, so I'm just gonna fire those. Gonna shoot 3 grenades here because this is a low gravity level, so I can just fly up very easily with it. We're going to apparently take fire to the face. And then we're gonna head into 4, and this is one of the few sections where you are required to take damage. There are 3 sections really that you are outright required to take damage. Gonna hit the tab key a little bit to make sure I hit the switch. We're gonna hit here, use our shotgun projectile physics to fly out. And then we're gonna make our way around this column. You hit that panel. Now into 5. I have a little bit over ×2, so I'm just gonna keep going. If I had very little health, I would go for the ×2 charger there because the ×3 charger is now no longer functional in this map after we destroy 4. So now we've destroyed 5, heading into 6. This is the other one I have to take damage on. And then 7 I will also have to take damage on. All right, I've actuated it. This is also a good level to find out if your monitor is actually adjusted for color balance correctly or color grading. I found that out the hard way when I was playing on a very cheapo RCA television, and I went into the coolant and my entire screen was just like pink. Couldn't see a single thing. I had to use the OBS capture to see where I was going.
I have done that before.
Anyway, we're done with 7, and now I get to snipe a switch from far away with a shotgun. Got it.
Well done.
All right, and 8's really straightforward. All right. So now we just gotta hit this panel and then we're done. And then we're captured. And this is basically a cutscene level, so I'm gonna give you some time to talk about anything if you're interested.
Oh, heck yeah. Folks, if you had forgotten, Summer Games Done Quick 2025 is coming up soon. It will be live in Minneapolis, Minnesota from July 6th to the 13th. If you want to register to attend the event, you can do so until May 26th. Use !SGDQ in Twitch chat or visit gamesdonequick.com for more info.
And hey, I'll be there. If you want to learn any of these games, you can literally just walk up to me and ask me about it. I'm glad to
I'm gonna see
help people with it.
TBCR in person.
Oh my goodness. GDQ events are really fun to attend. I've been attending events since 2017, and they're essentially my vacations. I used to attend only AGDQ, and then starting with SGDQ 2019, which was the first one I actually did a run for, I've been basically attending all the events in person.
Nice.
Just a good way to relax from, the hecticness of work and focus on speed gaming and, hanging out with people.
Yeah, except when I go there, I'm working.
You help in a good cause, though.
It is a good cause, and those live events are a lot of fun. So if you're going, let us know in chat if we're gonna see you there.
All right, so as you've noticed, I am at very little health, and I only start with the pistol. This is the fun half of the run, because this is where if anything does go wrong, it will go wrong. Because, oh boy, get ready for the next level. It's my least favorite level. Least favorite extermination mission of the entire trilogy. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite level of the whole series. That's reserved for a special level in Marathon Infinity. But for this one, we're just gonna have to go hit 2 switches. And we're gonna pick up the fusion pistol, and we're going to save before we head into the next level. All right. So I'm gonna hit that, and then gonna do some fun stair physics stuff to hop over to here. Gonna avoid that Flicta because they cannot be damaged with the fusion pistol. And now my pain and agony because we're on Gobblesort the Dead, and this level is actually like infamous because it is very tight corridors and you have enemies that blow up when they get close to you. And if you die, you start back at the very beginning of the level, starting from the end of the last level.
Oh, good God.
Now, luckily, the Bob's spawn points are very determinable, except for this one. Took a guess, got it right. I could tell it was that one because they were running directly towards me. All right, do I have to get 2? Yep, I'm just getting these out of the way now. There's 2 switches right here that we can use to crush all the enemies that would spawn in, and also allies. But that gets a whole bunch of enemies out of the way, just like that. There is an invincibility in this level, but it's really co-op only. It's hard to get it in single player. I've tried. It's really difficult. All right. Thank goodness these Bobs are in spots that are not terrible. They didn't immediately shoot me. They shoot 2 bullets, the red and the blue Bobs. The green Bobs only shoot 1. Should have mentioned that during the big house, because that's actually where ILs of that level, and yes, there are ILs of the big house, where manipulating the enemies and where the Bobs go is very important, and also killing certain Bobs. But in this level, we don't want to kill too many Bobs because we will make them start shooting at us. It's kind of like the mutiny thing in Halo, where you damage an ally and they start shooting at you. That's where that came from.
Oh, nice.
All right, end of the level has 4 at most exploding Bobs. We got them out of the way. By the way, that's Jason Jones as Robert Blake in the terminal. Still at Bungie, Still at Bungie. It's the only old guard still at the company.
All these years later.
Well, the business going from a Pong clone to new marathon. For those unaware, Bungie's very first title was a Pong clone.
I'm not even familiar with that title.
Yeah, it's Nop. That's the name of the game with exclamation point. Very important.
Nice.
I got some bad luck there, but that's fine. We're going to get some health in just a second. Just got to do some careful maneuvering. Hopefully we don't have a 4 land on top of us. Good. Do have to be a little bit quick because they will block our path, and we're going to be doing a fun jump in just a second. How fun is it, Teebs? Well, you'll see. It's basically a leap of faith. Right, so we're going to carefully strafe. When we're strafing, we don't look upwards. If I just let go of the W key, my aim resets the center. So if you don't want that to move, you just hold strafe at all times. All right, here's that jump. Oh, we made it. Oh.
Well done. GG.
Okay. Hit that switch. That's the last objective. I think I hit the switch on the other one. We'll find out. Yep. Thumbs up from Bob. All right, now this level is very important because, well, one, it's called Kill Your Television. It's a repair mission, and it features a very important jump, at least for the community, and it's named after a person that has attended GDQ events prior during the early days of GDQ. That person is Blue Glass, who, fun fact, did route, and as far as I'm aware, did runs but never submitted them for Marathon 1, 2, and Infinity. In fact, they submitted Infinity for SGDQ 2014. I remember seeing the submission form back in the day. That was when we were still using Google Sheets or spreadsheets for the submissions.
Wow.
And we name a jump at the very end of this level after Blue Glass because that was a jump that I believe they found.
Nice.
But to do that, we got to get through the rest of the level, and I did a very tricky snipe right there. Now, I should point out with the shotgun, when I've been doing all these snipes at switches, there are individual pellets, right? So individual projectiles shooting out of the shotgun. There are instances where a pellet can activate a switch on one frame, and then another pellet will deactivate it the immediate next frame after it.
Oh, geez.
And I believe that happened during my AGDQ 2022 run.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's not fun when it happens. And also I fell in the pit, so. Whoop. Fun stair physics. All right, so let's go do the blue glass jump, which is right here. Gonna go against this wall. Gonna swim up. I'm gonna hold regular fire first. Take damage twice, look away for the third, and then we can make it to right before the last objective. And now that we got the objective out of the way, we'll get the flamethrower, and then we get into my favorite extermination level of the whole franchise. Because it is the last extermination level of the whole franchise. Not because of that. I actually enjoyed this level. It's really, like, fun level to play. Because there's a lot of non-linearity to it, where you can kind of plan it out differently compared to like other runners. So to start out, we're going to pick up this AR, or not AR, the invincibility. Going to get these exploding bobs out of the way and try to make our way down this area, but we're not going to go fully down. We're just going to take care of the enemies that I can actually get without falling into the super lower section of the map. Let's see if I can get that snipe. Got it. Don't know why I did that. All right, so now let's do the second half. Gonna get rid of the other exploding. Oh, those are actual bobs. Oh, no. That's not good. We'll see if I get got it by the other bobs. For the time being, while we think that over, we're going to deal with 4 hunters in this room and then charge up to _2. And then I'm going to charge my fusion pistol. And the reason I'm doing that is because, well, first I need to see there's an enemy there, but I also want to make sure I don't switch over to the shotgun. And the way to prevent that is you are either currently firing or you're charging up a shot, like with the fusion pistol here. Just gonna fire another one just to see if any more spawn in. Nope. The bobs that I'm shooting with the flamethrower are exploding bobs. So I need to make sure I get them out of the way. All right, into the final main little room that we haven't explored yet. Behind me? No, they're in front of me. What are you talking about? All right, so now we're finishing up the level. Trying to line up the enemies so I could just get multiple at once, but that didn't work out. Okay, that was an exploding bob. Good. All right, now we head into another repair mission. This one also has a fun title, Dangerous. You know what it's called?
What?
Beware of abandoned rental trucks.
I mean, it's good advice.
That is. This is also what used to be called a shopping level because we would go into this big secret not too far away from where I'm at the moment, and we would just swim and pick up items that we would need for the rest of the level. And then we realized we didn't need to do it. So now we're doing it. How's it doing it right here? Now I have to come down to here real quick because if I was to try to kill the cyborg tank up here, it would spawn in more enemies. Don't do that. Bad idea. Very bad idea. I'm gonna try not to fire anything right here. I'm gonna go up, up, up to hit a switch and then go down, down, down to get back to the hub area of the section. But I do need to be very careful because I can accidentally fly out of that window. And that will be a soft lock if that happens.
Uh-oh.
All right, but we didn't soft lock, so that's good. I think it's solid on one side and not on the other. So you can go through, but you can't go back. It's very weird. All right, I have to deal with these enemies real quick. All right, cool.
Ooh.
All right, now a requiem for a cyborg, in which we are going to have to be very careful to not fly through any of the things we're not supposed to fly through because, well, we're not supposed to talk about that behavior yet because it happens during Fill the Noise, which is the second to last level. But there's a fun behavior where you can go through platforms and windows and whatnot if you're going fast enough. You've probably seen this during, if you've ever saw my Infinity run during, I think GDQ 2023. We went through a door by going, basically eating a grenade to the face and then just going fast enough to just fly through a door that was closed and locked. In this case, you can fly through the windows and just not be able to get back. So we have to be a little bit careful with these hovers up that we're doing here. All right, there we go. Gonna fire up, go down. Gonna open the door. Shoot up to go down a little bit faster. And then, as a safety, I'm just gonna... What? Oh, okay. It's weird that I did not see them. Usually it would be more obvious where they were. Okay, gonna hover up, read this terminal. And then we're gonna head into the final chapter of the game. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the level title because it is in, I believe, Latin.
Oh.
And I don't know about you, but I'm not good at Latin, so I'm not going to try to horrifically butcher that on stream. So I normally just call it Fatum as shorthand because that is at least the only part of it that I can pronounce correctly.
I actually know a little bit of Latin, but I'd still probably butcher it, knowing me.
All right. Oh, I can let you have a shot at pronouncing it because I do have to charge real quick if you want.
Sure.
All right, let me get these enemies out of the way. I'm gonna hit M.
Fatum Eustum Sultorum.
I'll take your word.
That is about as close as I'm going to get to it.
That's probably what it is. I have a very bad way of like pronouncing stuff, and I also have a speech impediment, so like certain like vowels and syllables are just pronounced weird. You probably noticed it a little bit during this run.
That's very subtle.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to be a little bit careful there because there was about a bunch of exploding bobs, so I needed to use the flamethrower to make sure that I didn't get blowed up at all. All right, I was gonna try to hop over that Svitkirk right there, which is the name of those specific Svit compilers. But I wasn't able to, so I had to take the long way home. All right, so made that jump. I was worried for a second I wasn't going to. This is another repair. Well, no, this isn't repair. This is exploration. The polygon's at a weird spot. And by a weird spot, I mean at the end. But we have to hit the switch to open up the exit to the end. But now we get to do the fun part of the run, which I like to call warping. So now I'm going to pick up this ×3. I'm going to eat a grenade to the face, and then I'm just going to point towards the wall, and we're up.
Nice. Well done.
We get to do that more in Infinity. In fact, there's a fun clip in Infinity now that lets us basically make the run about 10 minutes for any percent.
Oh, jeez.
I was determined that it was doable, and oh boy, did I prove it. A lot of weird conditions to do it, because you're at like a window, you're at like a door frame that if you are directly inside the door frame, you lose all momentum, so you have to like take damage away from the door and then slide into where the door is at. I probably explained that the worst way possible, but if you look up on like any runs for Infinity, you'll see what I mean, especially runs from like the last year or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you learn all the runs and get them all short enough, then you could run a marathon.
Unironically, so a fun fact, I've submitted a marathon game for basically every GDQ event. My biggest goal was originally to get all 3 games at once, because there's actually a category for that called Trilogy %, and it would be to play all 3 games back to back to back, which I believe Marathon 2 is the longest run at 30 minutes and 1 second for its fastest run. Also, time's coming up. And yeah, Infinity's like less than 10 minutes now. All right, here we go. Time.
GG's, well done.
Just over 36, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, well done. That was excellent.
Yeah,
especially the fact that you just kind of recently de-rusted this for this show.
Yeah, and I PB'd during the de-rust as well. I've been on a roll when it comes to like PBing. I think I've had a PB for like most of my speed games once a week at this point.
This man's
been really going at it.
Well done. So yeah, do you have any shout outs you want to give? Tell us what you're doing over on your channel, and tell us where we can find you.
Well, obviously you can find me at TBCR_. TBCR was taken by someone, and by someone I mean me, back in 2011, and forgot the password. That was when it was still Justin.tv, by the way. I've just locked out of that account. And then if you like to learn any of these games, if you go over to my Twitch page, you can find a link to the Discord for like learning the games and whatnot. We are currently trying to aggregate all the information into like one solid source, which I know that's a thing a lot of like speedrunning communities are trying to do at the moment, because things are all over the place and whatnot. It's taking some time. There's not a lot of runners, and there's a lot of information to sift through. And yeah, I'm glad to help you out. I always will be glad to answer any questions you have. And if needed, like record some like examples and whatnot. Over on my Twitch page, it's speedrunning Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a lot of variety stuff. I'm currently going through the Megami Tensei franchise, mostly in order of original release, so that's pretty cool. But in terms of speedruns, I do Amiga speedruns. I'm probably going to get into speedruns for Japanese home computers, like the Sharp X68000. So that'll be pretty cool. Because I recently purchased some PC 98s, 88s, and a Sharp X68000 and X1. So that'll be cool once I get them in not backup battery corroding the entire motherboard condition. Because nickel cadmium is fun.
But yeah, any shout outs you wanted to give to the community?
I will shout out Aperture Grills, who is primarily my main like speed rival when it comes to these games. Because usually back in the day, I would like world record, and they would come back usually 24 to 48 hours later and beat my time. And it's know that constant back and forth. It's good. It gets me motivated, keeps me going at these games and whatnot. It's just a really good series. Like if you do Halo speedruns and you like something kind of similar but not exactly, definitely try Marathon. The games are free. They're on Steam. You can download them, play them. And then if you think they're interesting, yeah, join the Discord for that. And then, yeah, I want to shout out to obviously people in my community that are watching. I saw Thren earlier. Hi, Thren. And also people in the marathon community as a whole, like our marathon on Reddit and other places like the forums and whatnot, marathon story forums and whatnot. And hats off to 819.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for showing off Marathon and kicking off Bungo-Thon here on Crosshair. Big appreciate, and I'll hope to see you at SGDQ, man.
I will definitely be there. I'm going to get on the train on the 3rd and make my way over there on July 3rd.
Yeah, you bet. All right, folks, we're going to take a... Welcome back to Crosshair here on the GDQ Hotfix. We'll be rounding out tonight's episode of Bungo-Thon with Destiny 2. But before we get to that, I want to let you all know that GDQ's AAPI celebration will be on May 3rd and 4th. Celebrate AAPI Heritage Month with a weekend full of Asian and Pacific Islander speedrunners. Use !AAPI in chat for more info. That said, I'm excited for this next run. This is going to be Destiny 2 Root of Nightmares, which is normally done with 4 players. However, we've got Minus here who's going to tackle it solo, which is going to be quite an interesting ride. So Minus, show us Root of Nightmares with Destiny 2.
Hi everyone, I'm Minus, and this is actually meant to be done with 6 people, and I'm doing it by myself.
Oh, 6?
But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so a little of a high task here at hand, but yeah, I do a whole bunch of high-end stuff in D2, usually in stream it. In this run, when I first submitted it, I was like, there's no way this is going to get in. And Dangerous was like, DM'd me like a month after, and I was like, oh, okay, well. So,
heck yeah,
caster-wise, I have Aloe Vera here and Aegis. Aegis, if you want to introduce yourself first.
Hello, I am Aloe. I'm a friend of Minus. I play Destiny 2 at a pretty high level. I don't really do speedrunning stuff, but I'm decently knowledgeable. That's really about it. Yeah.
Do you want to do your intro again?
Yeah, so I am Aloe. I'm a friend of Minus. I don't really do any of the speedrunning stuff, but I'm pretty knowledgeable about the high end of Destiny 2 as well. That's really about it.
Sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, apologies. Yeah, sorry. I think I restarted my PC and it messed up one of my OBS sources. So yeah, sorry. I'll do my intro real quick. I'm Aegis. I'm a Destiny 2 endgame content creator, and I'm a lover of speedruns and a speedrunner myself as well. So I'm very thankful Minus, gave me the opportunity here to cast this wonderful run. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. And yeah, let's get started.
All right. If everyone's ready, we'll start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah, we'll get things started here. So as Dangerous mentioned just now, Root of Nightmares is actually an activity that's done by 6 players. So Minus, to be able to solo this, pretty impressive stuff, right? Raids are amongst the highest end content in Destiny 2. They require a lot of coordination, a lot of mechanics. So being able to solo them, first of all, there's only a couple raids in Destiny history that are soloable in general. And so, just being able to complete one by yourself, let alone in kind of like a speedrun setting, is going to be some pretty impressive stuff. And just like that, Minus has already entered the first encounter here. Allo, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on in this encounter?
Yeah, so normally you'd be having 1 to 3 people running these nodes, they're called, these little floating orbs. You're playing connect the dots with them. You start from one point, go to the next, building a path. Everyone else just helps keep things clean, get rid of all the enemies, and extend the timer, importantly enough. But Minus is going so fast, don't even need the time extension on the first one.
Right.
So there were those bubbled guys. Once he killed them, it spawned this beefy guy over here.
Oh, yeah.
Huge annoyance, usually. But this gun, Lord of Wolves, very, very strong right now.
Right.
Able to melt through his health. And killing him is actually what's going to extend the timer. So that he has enough time to do this 3-man task alone.
Mm-hmm. Right. So something interesting about Destiny as a live service game, a lot of, speedrunning audiences are more familiar with, stable sandbox games, one and done, they're released. So you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on. But Destiny 2, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to view it, has a dynamic sandbox. Bungie, the game developer, releases patches, changes, and sometimes you get some nice treats. For example, Lord of Wolves right now, very, very strong weapon. Kind of, not as popular before this, but got a very, very big buff recently. Most people think it's like accidental. And so a lot of solo players are making use of it to make their lives easier in encounters like this. That really beefy big guy earlier that Allo mentioned, the Tormentor, just made quick work of him, just immediately melted with this shotgun here. And it also enables Minus to kind of run around with this sword here because it's a special weapon. So really high quality of life change for Minus here, just being able to run this Lord of Wolves weapon. And another thing Allo mentioned here, so the mechanics that are going on, these little bubbled guys, once Minus kills them, they're going to spawn in that Tormentor. Something clever that Minus is doing here is he's actually using the Tormentor, the refresh enemy, from the previous set of nodes in order to refresh his timer for the next set of nodes. So this gives Minus a nice little buffer here in order to spend time focusing on these raid mechanics in order to make sure that he doesn't wipe to that sweeping terror timer that we just mentioned in the previous section.
You can see that timer at the top under his health bar. If that ever hits 0, bye-bye.
Right, so you saw it just refreshed there after Minus killed the Tormentor. Back up to 30 seconds, was just at 7 seconds there. So again, this encounter generally definitely not designed to be done by one person. That timer is sometimes even tight when you're running with other people and you're not running in a solo. So some pretty impressive stuff here. There are 4 sections in this first encounter here. Minus is just about to complete the 3rd section here, just spawning in that next Tormentor. You can see in the bottom left, Pain calls for the Tormentor. And we're going to be moving on to the 4th set, already blazing through this first encounter here. We're going to be ending the first encounter as soon as this next set is finished.
Haven't even mentioned maybe one of the most important parts of going fast here. That sword he's using has a special perk called Eager Edge, where whenever he pulls it out, if he hasn't used it in a while, he will launch himself. Go so fast. It's a very central mechanic to going fast, and that's really what these first 2 encounters are about, is just going fast. Getting things done, building these paths, zooming.
Right. I mean, speaking of going fast, this is when it comes to just regular raid speedruns, so you got 6 people in your fire team instead of just soloing it, this is one of the speedrunning community's favorite raids, because although the general Destiny community had their complaints with this raid when it first came out, a lot of speedrunners really like this raid because it offers players the opportunity to really focus on these movements, these smooth, clean executions of going and bouncing from node to buff. So you're going to see this in a second here again. Just Minus going here from buff, locating the next node. You see Field of Light, top middle of his screen. Boom, he's activated that node. And finally, he is going to send it home with this final buff here. And boom, just like that, as soon as Minus hits this node, first encounter is successfully over. Congratulations, Minus. Looking good. No wipes, successful completion, and pretty fast, might I say. Okay. So you want to go ahead and, Aloe, you want to mention maybe some of the movement tech that's going on in this next section?
Yeah, so obviously we have more of the Eager Edge from the sword, just getting a lot of speed, and using the Warlock ability, Icarus Dash, which that little like weird shoulder lunge he does in the air. Using that, you can kind of keep that momentum and go forwards and get pretty high speeds across long distances. Combined with some hops, here he's going to go underneath and get on this area and use a combination of things. Warlock has an ability, Heat Rises. Oh, there's a Well Skate. Big thing, kind of abusing the way the physics engine works to launch yourself and keep the momentum. Combining that with the other thing I was about to mention, Heat Rises. A Warlock buff you can get that does that. It lets you keep momentum really easily, launch yourself, and basically fly. So he can go straight up. When you come into this area, this encounter is actually directly above you. Fastest point, or fastest path between 2 points, straight line right up.
All right, yeah, perfect. Love that explanation. So we are actually already heading into the second encounter here, and you'll notice there is something a little different about the nodes in this area. In the previous encounter, we were just dealing with these nice, pale, puffy light nodes, and they were great and everything, but in this encounter, Bungie was like, nah, you're gonna get 2 types of nodes now. There's light and dark. So a lot of the time in, LFG runs, when you're kind of just playing with random people, you're trying to get the raid done, you have a couple players assigned to each of these node colors, and people are kind of independently working on completing these node paths together. However, Minus is, as you're probably aware of by now, by himself. And so he's doing this kind of clever routing where he's hopping back and forth between these 2 sides in order to expertly complete both the light and dark nodes in the correct order in sequence, right? So he's kind of interleaving his actions here in order to make that happen. If he were to complete just the light nodes and just the dark nodes, you see that imminent expulsion timer at the top of his screen right now. That's a wipe timer, and unfortunately in this encounter, there's no Tormentor to extend it. So he has literally a minute left to finish this floor, and so if he were to have some suboptimal routing, maybe doing 1 color at a time, he would be in a bit of a time crunch. However, here, as you can see, he's just cruising along, doing these alternative, node completions, and boom, he's already done with the dark side there. That's the final dark node that he's completed, and he's going to make his way over to light to finish that one as well.
So this alternating pattern of light and dark it's used in some like normal strategy for this, but having to do it all alone means you're doubling the workload. Right. The timer can get pretty tight here.
And of course, this raid, a lot of enemies, pretty enemy dense, especially at the end of a floor like this. You can see Minus's health. Ooh, unlucky. Yeah, lots of enemies here. But no big deal. I mean, it's only the first floor, so Minus will be able to retry this encounter very, very quickly. And, we can have a little chat about some of these node mechanics. So in the meantime, while Minus is getting ready to restart the second encounter, let's briefly talk about how exactly these node mechanics work in this raid. Because, while it is a complaint that some casual players have had with this encounter, for speedrunners, it's kind of a unifying theme across this entire raid. So the way these nodes work is that what Minus is doing is collecting a buff from a specific color, like we mentioned, locating a node, and in this encounter, all the nodes are in a fixed order. So Minus is always able to locate the node because he knows where the next one is going to be. Light buff goes to light node, and then he has to rebuff himself to reacquire the buff again. So the challenge with this raid comes from the fact that these buff and node plates they are going to leapfrog each other and change position. And sometimes there's a little bit of randomness as well in terms of where the buffs and nodes are actually located. So in this particular instance, this encounter, the challenge is that you're handling both light and dark, and then there's a lot of adds in the encounter. There's a lot of enemies in the encounter. However, in some future encounters, maybe there won't be as many enemies, but you're going to have to deal with some level of randomness. So Minus here is just focused on locking in that routing and then maybe dealing with the enemies afterwards, because that timer is going to disappear as soon as Minus is actually done with the node mechanics.
Yeah, so these enemies, they're definitely a nuisance. The eager edge mechanic with the sword is kind of a double-edged sword, quite literally. It can help you move fast, but if there is an enemy anywhere near the center of your screen, your sword will magnetize to that enemy, and not only will it maybe take you off course, it will cut
like that.
right
There you go. There you go, right there. Yeah.
It'll kind of
Exactly.
just kill your momentum in its tracks, and if that happens too many times, that alone can really put the strain on the timer. You know, there's ways to recover it. You know, it's happened once there, and there's ways around it. But you know, it's just one of those things that can kind of happen, and you just kind of plan around it and be faster.
Okay, so we're at the point last time where, we had the unfortunate wipe, but it seems like Minus is in a good amount of health here, taking out some of these core enemies here. Another challenge in this encounter in particular is that a lot of these enemies that normally you would be able to kill in Destiny, just generally speaking, they're going to be shielded. And so Minus has a specific kind of buff here. You can see the redolence of decay there, kind of an orange tinge on that enemy. And that's because you need the buff to actually, there you go, immune, right? So as soon as Minus's buff runs out, again, those shielded enemies cannot be dealt with. Right, so another challenge here of this encounter is that you need a specific kind of buff to deal with certain kinds of enemies. So we see here, Minus is good.
Oh, I was gonna say sneak peek at a later mechanic there with those refuges. Not gonna come into play until the final boss, but this is a little sneak peek.
Right, exactly. And Minus here, again, this Lord of Wolves weapon is just making quick work of all these Cabal here. Pretty crazy stuff. But the nice thing is, the reason why Minus can kind of, take his time here, kill enemies one by one, play it safe, maybe make some finishers for, ammo to fill up on that Lord of Wolves, is because Minus's timer is gone, right? So as I mentioned, the node mechanics are the important time-sensitive part of this encounter. Once those node mechanics are done, timer gone, you just need to make sure that you stay alive and you're taking your time here. Now, a big thing with this encounter, and just encounters in Root of Nightmares when you're doing a solo or low-man challenge in general, is that raid mods are a big thing in Destiny. Now, in some raids, raid mods are not as prevalent, right? They're kind of weak. Just Bungie kind of designs them a certain way, and maybe they're not as useful for certain players doing challenges. However, in Root of Nightmares, you'll notice here every single time Minus deposits a buff, let's watch over here, you see that nice white halo effect on the screen, restoration ×2, cure on the left side of Minus's screen here. That's a raid mod called Release Recover. And so being able to survive when you have, again, 6 players worth of enemies shooting you for like a solid 10 minutes straight, it's pretty tough, right? So the raid mods really help out a lot here. Every single time Minus grabs a buff and dunks it here and loses that buff, again, that restoration ×2 timer here, which is like a healing buff in Destiny, super, super helpful with being able to survive.
Yeah, that restoration, look at how many things are shooting. I mean, his health is staying full.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
pretty clean stuff here.
And because he is on, you can see in the bottom left, his abilities are all orange. He is on the solar subclass, which, because Lord of Wolves, the shotgun that is very strong, is also solar, he can actually use that to extend this buff if he ever needs to, with some of the fragments he has in his subclass. Which are
nice of you to
little tidbits you can put in your subclass to help, make a build, buff things out, make your build your own. But there's one in particular that is any solar kill he does is going to extend those buffs. It's very, very handy.
Right. Yeah, Ember of Empyrean, which is the fragment that Aloe is talking about here. Super helpful. As you can see, every single time Minus is getting a kill with Lord of Wolves here, you can see the restoration timer is staying at 15. It's just going up and up and up and up and up, which is super helpful here, obviously, because now Minus can't dunk any buffs anymore, right? So Minus is going to be able to get those that restoration increase and just be able to absolutely shred through these enemies without a care in the world. So again, we are nearing the completion of the second floor here. There are 3 total floors. There are 4 total sections last encounter. We're going to take away 1 here, 3 total floors. And once Minus is out of that 3rd floor, we're going to be moving on about halfway done the raid. So pretty cool stuff. Minus right there made something called a special finisher. That's something I mentioned when we were on the 1st floor. Obviously, being a special weapon and not a primary weapon, in Destiny 2 special weapons have limited ammo capacity. And so in order to make use of this OP weapon, Lord of Wolves, Minus is going to need to make some ammo. And so in Destiny, instead of relying on kind of RNG ammo drops, which are kind of just random ammo drops you get from killing a lot of enemies, there is a system in Destiny that allows you to create finishers off of weak enemies. Boom, there you go. That little green rectangle that just popped out of that Cabal there, that is special ammo for Lord of Wolves for this insanely overpowered shotgun here that Minus is just mowing through these Cabal with. Again, making those finishers. Again, one more. Let's see it for the crowd. Boom, there we go. And as you can see, you see these little plus 45, plus 5 green in the bottom left. That's just Minus filling up on some ammo, so he's going to have plenty moving into this 3rd floor.
Yeah, and something hasn't really been mentioned. The enemies actually change between floors. There's always these legionaries, just the standard goons for the Cabal. They're kind of just guys, they shoot you, that's about it. Pretty beefy, so they make a good wall. Them physically blocking you can actually come up in this encounter. But each floor actually has a different subset of enemy that goes with them that can be pretty dangerous. The first floor has these scions that aren't that threatening. Middle floor has these gladiators that are even bigger and beefier that can block you even harder. This 3rd floor has incendiors, who are guys with big flamethrowers, and if you get too close, they can do like a fire shockwave and launch you way off course. That's probably not going to be a concern here because going so fast, you're just going to avoid their attack by baiting it out, going past them, not even dealing with them. The most dangerous enemy, though, is actually the one that killed him in the first run. Near the end of each floor, a champion will spawn, a barrier colossus. Huge guy. Yeah. Big minigun. If he puts that minigun right at you, it's not a good time. You can see how fast he died to that guy last time. Very dangerous. They also have these blinding rockets that are just obnoxious, but they're a threat, and you have to respect them. So, you'll see when he gets to, after he finishes this other side here, when he goes to kill it, he'll probably end up taking it out first if he's isolated, because he can isolate himself sometimes. So where is he at? There he is.
There he is. Gun him down.
Lord of Wolves absolutely deletes him.
Yeah, I mean, he's just gone. Not even in one mag. He's just absolutely destroyed.
He has a special ability to shield himself as a barrier champion. Just scary enemy. Wouldn't matter. There's another buff he gets as the solar subclass, where his melee ability, he shoots these fireballs out, can give him a buff called Radiant that lets him just tear through the barrier anyways. It wouldn't even matter.
Right. I mean, it's impressive how even with that restoration effect we were talking about earlier that lets Minus survive so well, the barrier can still shred through that. So you kind of have to respect him, like it was mentioned, and just really pay attention to the positioning here. There we go. Minus is going to get light buff once more. Boom. Field of light to deal with these enemies. Oh, another barrier champion. Oh, boom. There we go. Nice. We flinched him before he took us out. A lot of the time in Destiny, the best defense is a good offense. And Lord of Wolves is certainly a very offensive weapon. So we are nearing the end of second encounter here. If you want to kind of make an announcement in about, I'm not going to jinx anything. Let's let Minus finish this encounter first, but we're really nearly at the end here. There we go.
Yeah, no problem.
So this next part, there's a little cave where he just has to build more nodes, 3 light and 3 dark, connecting them to the middle to open a door. Very easy, no time constraints, if this would be a really good time to make some announcements.
Yeah, no problem, folks. If you haven't seen the schedule for season 4 of GDQ Hotfix, go to gamesdonequick.com/hotfix. And you can check out this season's lineup and also check out the schedule for an in-depth look at this week's runs. Type !schedule to check that out. And if you missed out on any of our Hotfix shows or any of our other events like Black and Flash or the upcoming AAPI event, you can head on over to youtube.com/GDQ twitch.tv/gamesdonequick and check out all the VODs there. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, come join us over at twitch.tv/gamesdonequick. We'd love to have you here live.
All right. So again, yeah, whole announcement over, but you know, we're still in this section again. 6-man activity, 6-man kind of puzzle sections, just being done by one person here. Gonna take 6 times the time, maybe not 6 times the time actually. With the runner like Minus in the activity, you know, maybe something like 4 times, 3 times the time, but still certainly gonna take a while. So a great place for an announcement. Thank you, Dangerous, and yeah, let's move on to this transition section. So this next section here, in Destiny, obviously there are encounters, right, where you have a respawn restricted zone. So, you know, if you die, it's a wipe, as you saw -2 on the second encounter. But then you also have transition sections. So here, if you die, no biggie, right? You got a respawn timer, but it's not the end of the world. But here, this transition section here, it's like an area between encounters, and Bungie often likes to litter them with puzzles, with enemies, you know, lots of little nasty surprises for, you know, the Guardians to face. And in this particular area, Minus is going to make use of a movement tech we mentioned earlier between the first and second encounter called well skating, right? Ooh, a bit of an unfortunate kind of bump there. Thankfully, Bungie also, you know, kind of changed physics in their engine semi-recently so that, you know, fatal crashes like that are no longer fatal. You don't just die to collision damage anymore. So thankfully, Minus, I'm sure, is very happy that he's not perished as a result of that collision.
Backup refuge here.
Yeah. So again, like Aloe mentioned before, there's this new mechanic that's being introduced. Minus used it briefly in second encounter, where generally most teams don't tend to use it there. But it's being introduced in this transition section here, Bungie kind of teaching players mechanics as they move through the raid, and it's called a refuge, right? And so what a refuge does is there's a darkness wave in this transition section, which normally, if you are unprotected, just kills you when it passes through you, right? And so Minus here just made a refuge that matched the color of the wave, which was dark, and by doing that was able to survive that wave passing through him. You're going to see this come up later in the encounter after this one, but for now we're going to get to our first of 2 boss encounters, the third encounter out of 4 in this raid. That's going to be the Explicator.
Yeah, so the Explicator is definitely the most complicated encounter in this raid. Whereas the first 2 both use connect the dots, there's nodes, and the third or the fourth one, the final boss, also uses that mechanic. This encounter throws all that out the window, completely different. So around this room, there are these planets.
Ooh.
And each planet is colored either light or dark. And your goal is to arrange it so that all of the light planets are together on one side and all of the dark planets are together on the other side. And you kind of just pick them up and move them. So you can see here, he's going to planetary attunement, interact with the glowing white orb. That shows he has picked up a planet, and the hollow one is where he is putting it. It sounds cooler than it is, saying you're picking up and moving planets. It's kind of just flying around, interacting with these orbs to symbolically move them. But you'll see here, he's going to shoot that little crystal in the middle of the room, and these planets are going to begin to move and spin around the room. Very cool spectacle. You can just watch the move. And he did a little thing where normally you have 4 people, 1 on each of these platforms. And you have each person will pick up one and swap it with the other side. So you have like 2 teams of 2. He's got to do everything alone. Mm-hmm. But there's a bit of a restriction with how you see each planet's color. When you kill these big colossi, you can see the planet will turn orange. But only on the side he killed the colossi. So you have to do some call-outs across your team. Or he can just like pick up a planet and put it back in the same spot, and that'll reset it so that he can get the buff to see the colors of the other side. So the first run, kind of just a preliminary scouting. He scouts out, sees which ones he needs to move, and if he's fast, which, look at this, he's going really fast, he can actually move the 2 lower plates on the first round, do the higher plates on the second round. Now he's moving to the next part of the encounter with the indexed planets.
Okay, perfect. So that little ding and the line in the bottom left there, the index planets reveals themselves, basically means that Minus has completed the first segment of a damage phase, or leading to the damage phase of this encounter. So like I mentioned earlier, this is the first of 2 boss encounters. Now, unfortunately for Minus, boss encounters compared to puzzle encounters or just regular mechanic encounters in Destiny, they have health pools that in fact represent needing to be done by 6 people. And so try as you might, even if you're a solo player, even if you are using overpowered weapons, overpowered mods, it's still a challenge to be able to one phase as a 6-man team might a boss. And so in this particular instance, this encounter, we're going to be spending a fair amount more time compared to the previous encounters that we were doing, but still it's going to be done relatively fast, as Minus is again excelling on these mechanics, moving these planets very quickly. We can revisit some of the mechanic stuff once we leave damage here, but Minus is just too fast for us. We're going to be going straight into damage here. Minus is killing all these scions to make sure they do not bother him during damage, and has done an excellent job of doing so. Boom, changing to this damage setup, and boom, boss damage has already started just like that. So Minus here, good.
All right, another amazingly strong gun right now is the Queenbreaker. This like burst charge up rifle he's using, combined with one of the artifact mods, which are seasonal boosts you can get. Like every season in Destiny, there's some new stuff, and an artifact where you can activate various buffs for the duration of that season. You pick and choose. One of them, particle reconstruction, lets you get a pretty strong debuff just by shooting the enemy. You don't have to jump through any hoops, you just shoot him.
And there we go, damage phase is over. Yeah, pretty decent damage, definitely runnable. Yeah, and as you can see here, Minus is making use of the fact that primary weapons in Destiny, like we mentioned, there's primary, there's special weapons, have a much better ammo generating property compared to special weapons. So Minus here, as you can see, is on Trinity Ghoul, which is a bow that is able to create these lightning chains between weak enemies and just kill them repeatedly. And so there we go. That's something, by the way, only controller players can do that. That little backward sword swing there that you just saw. Something that's very jarring if you're a PC player. So definitely some interesting stuff that you can take a look at there. But yeah, Trinity Ghoul, very good at mowing down all these little red bars, these little annoying scions that spawn in this encounter. And by doing so, by getting all these primary kills, Minus is actually able to generate a ton of heavy ammo, which allows him to switch between a sword and that Queenbreaker weapon that we mentioned earlier. So Queenbreaker for damage is over, take it off, swap to the sword, get plenty of sword ammo from all that heavy ammo you generated from defeating all these nasty little scions.
More importantly than generating ammo, killing enough enemies is actually how you trigger the fight to progress. So right now he just has to keep killing, and eventually it's gonna spawn this guy, a Centurion. Killing those guys spawns the even bigger guys that are just more of those Colossi from earlier with a fancy name, Terrestrial Lieutenant, up on the platforms, and that's how you really get the mechanics going. So you kill small guys to make big guys, kill big guys to make bigger guys, and then you have to kill the bigger guys to actually, have things happen.
Right. Yeah, ad clear, as we call it, is pretty important in this encounter, again, to spawn those Colossi in order to continue these mechanics. Again, this is just a repeat of what we saw in the first phase here. Minus is scouting those planets. And something interesting to note in Destiny is Bungie and their raid/dungeon team, they love making mechanics focused on vision, right? So maybe one player can see a set of callouts and another player cannot see that set of callouts but can interact with a mechanic. So this encounter is a classic example of that kind of vision mechanic where certain players that defeat these lieutenants, as you saw here, these planets are suddenly glowing white and orange. Minus is able to see that, and so Minus is able to then correctly determine the callout and move these planets where they need to go. All right.
I don't know if you mentioned earlier, but with the indexed planets in the middle, that just highlights like light or dark on the 3 in the middle, and he needs to move matching planets into the middle to make it to where he can deal damage to the boss.
Right, that's right. So yeah, the way this encounter works, as Aloe was just saying there, is that first you have to match all the planets on both sides so that they're all matching, and then 3 of these planets are going to come to the middle and hover over these middle planets, and then you have to dunk the correct planets onto these plates in the middle, depending on what you saw when you killed one of these terrestrial lieutenants, right, as they're called. Okay, so again, moving into our second damage phase here, Something interesting that I'll mention here that we didn't really talk about during first phase is that you'll always get 3 planets in the middle. One of them is going to be dark and 2 of them are going to be light, or it's going to be the other way around. So you get 2 of one kind and 1 of the other. And so the way this boss works, a little bit picky about which plates you choose to do damage on. You have to go light, dark, light, or dark, light, dark. So that's the reason why Minus actually started on a different plate this time. He's going mid, left, right, because he has to follow the order of the planets and alternates rather than going with 2 planets of the same color in a row. So as you can see here, he went light, dark, light. He's on his final plate of damage here. Absolutely taking this boss to task right here. I mean, come on. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. And damage is over. Look at that. I mean, that is 2 phases of damage easily. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but you can see the health bar there. I mean, 3rd phase looks like it's going to be a breeze. Obviously, there is a bit of a final stand period that a lot of Bungie bosses are famous for. Enrage is near, again, something that you just saw on the screen there. In order to keep raids kind of a little bit pressured, I suppose, compared to your average activity, there are enrage mechanics in raids, which means you have a maximum number of phases before the boss just wipes you. You can't just take 50 phases to defeat a boss. And this does make solos, a lot harder. Some solos aren't even possible because of this enrage mechanic, because a solo player can't output the amount of damage required to kill the boss. So there's definitely some pressure here. This is Minus's last phase to kill the boss, but given that health bar, I think Minus has got it in the bag. Let's keep watching. Let's keep watching Minus dunk these planets.
Tacking onto that enrage thing, this boss is actually an interesting exception where his enrage does not instantly kill you. His enrage actually just pushes it to his final stand, so to speak, where if you see that little black line near the bottom of his health bar, when his health reaches that, he'll do a fancy animation and turn all of the plates to dark, and you have to go plate by plate and keep shooting him, and if you don't do enough damage within that timer, he kills you. He just wipes your raid. That's pretty normal. A lot of bosses have that. The next boss will have that as well. However, this boss is unique in that his enrage doesn't just instantly kill you. It just starts that final stand early. So even if his damage was a bit lacking, if he got it at least close, he could actually, keep up and get the kill because he just has enough during final stand. That's not super likely that it comes up, but it's just a neat little tidbit about this boss.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice of you to point out, honestly. Yeah, this is one of the only bosses in all of Destiny where the final stand isn't just a bye-bye. It's you actually get a chance to interact with the boss a little more and, try and work through the rest of his health as a kind of final stand. So definitely unique in that regard. Something I'll talk about here actually in Minus's build that's kind of interesting is you might be wondering, compared to the last encounter, there's no restoration on the left side of Minus's screen. So how is Minus getting all this healing? So Minus actually has another part of the Destiny 2 kind of build sandbox kit. It's called Devour. And the way Devour works is it's like a spree kind of ability. Oh, did the stream just freeze?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, I'll continue talking for a little bit, but hopefully the technical difficulties resolve themselves. But essentially what Devour does is when you kill an enemy, it refreshes your health almost back to full. And so by using Trinity Ghoul, which is able to kill these red bar enemies very quickly, Minus is just able to mow through them and completely ignore any incoming damage.
There is not a pause feature now. Oh, yeah. So you got booted back to main menu here.
Oof.
Sorry about that, folks, but we are back with Destiny 2. Minus is just blowing through this so quickly that he just completely broke the game. So, Minus, can you make sure not to break the game this time?
Try my best.
All right, count us in, man. Let's do this.
All right, start back in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we're back into the swing of things here, and just like I mentioned earlier, right, Minus has this buff called Devour. So compared to Restoration, which kind of heals you over time, Devour is like a snap killing spree kind of ability. So the way that it works is every single time while Devour is active, when Minus gets a kill, it refreshes its health, it gives him a little bit of grenade energy, and it also refreshes the timer or brings it up on Devour. So as long as Minus is constantly just killing these enemies between every single mechanics action, Minus is going to be able to keep himself nice and healthy and and kind of ignore a lot of the chip damage in this encounter, which, you know, if you remember the barrier colossus from the last encounter, I mean, you've got pretty much 4 colossi in this encounter, 1 on each of these triangles. So a lot of damage to, you know, potentially deal with here, but because Minus is essentially healing to full health on every single kill, and Minus is getting, well, I mean, you can see that here, plenty of kills, it's not really a big deal. You know, it's pretty chill. Minus is just going around mowing through these ads. You know, Colossus top left, don't really care. He's shooting me, doesn't really matter. I'm healing to full health pretty much every second or 2.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are just so many little things to talk about here. So, it gives us more opportunity to keep mentioning. So, one little thing he's been doing is this lightning melee, where he'll, like, dash forward and do a big lightning burst that is just destroying everything. And that's a combination of these 2 things he actually has. One of them is one of the aspects of his subclass, which, unlike the fragments from earlier, are much bigger portion of your subclass. You can only have 2 of. And you pick and choose based on what's available. And this lightning surge is he can slide and do this dash melee. That's a huge lightning explosion that does pretty good damage. But it's just made so much better with the exotic class item he has, where these exotic armor pieces are just things you only have 1 of, that are just super powerful pieces that give you a pretty nice buff. The one he has on means if he is surrounded by enemies, his melee damage, yeah, there you go, that lightning explosion has destroyed that man. And that one too. That lightning explosion, when he is surrounded, his melee damage goes up a huge amount. So combining that melee buff with this lightning surge melee explosion, it just destroys whatever he comes in contact with. And then because of the Devour, as Aya just mentioned earlier, it heals him too.
Yeah. Pretty strong ability setup for sure. I mean, in Destiny, the way kind of build crafting works compared to like most games is it's like a whole constellation of like all these different kind of things you can have. You have mods, you have like regular armor mods, you have raid mods, you have the subclass / super you choose, you have your fragments, you have your aspects. So there's plenty of things that go into this, some of which we've already mentioned, some of which I'm sure we will mention pretty soon. Another thing I want to talk about here, while Minus is just kind of clearing the arena and getting ready for damage while these planets await him in the center, is the super that Minus is actually using, right? So Explicator, the boss that Minus is currently facing, the one with the, you know, the big ol' flamethrower and the massive backpack behind him that's currently being shot, he's known for having really annoying burn damage. And as you can see in the health bar in the top here, if Minus had no source of healing or any source of sustain, that health bar is eventually going to chip while you're doing damage and eventually lead to your demise. And so what Minus is doing here is using a super called Song of Flame, which has a massive amount of damage resist to bosses, to any sort of incoming damage, which allows him to safely damage here. And even though this chip damage, all of this kind of like solar burn damage is coming and ticking him, it's doing barely anything, right? So as long as he's able to kind of stay safe here, he should be good. Kind of playing it safe here, yeah, just leaving damage early, taking care of that Colossus, and boom. First phase, you know, not the best in terms of damage, but still probably runnable as long as Minus makes it up in the back half.
Yeah, so and there's that damage phase. There are so many more little things that go into it. If you see him going into his inventory, he's actually swapping things around a lot. And to get to damage, he's swapping twice. He's swapping off of his sword to go to Queenbreaker, but he does it with a loadout that's specifically for ammo. And then after he gets his ammo, he's swapping to another loadout that is much more built for dealing damage to the boss. So he's kind of just combining so many little things from the artifact, his guns, his subclass, and then his armor mods that all compile together in a really nice package to just do frankly absurd damage to the boss. Like, if you look at that, it's like, oh, maybe it's doable. You have to remember, this is 1/6 of the normal potential. If you had 6 people doing this,
right,
this boss would be gone.
I mean, yeah, he'd be absolutely cooked for sure. Yeah. So guys, if we weren't already clear about how the artifact works, that's something we've mentioned a couple times here. I mentioned how Bungie, you know, it's not like a static sandbox game where there's one single patch everyone plays on. You know, the game is constantly evolving. It's a live service game. And so one of the things that Bungie does on top of, you know, some giving weapons like Lord of Wolves a little bit of a shove upward, let's just say, is make an artifact every season. And so what the artifact does is it creates these mods that you can put on basically for free. You can't have, there's a limited number you can have, but they don't actually cost any currency to apply, right? And so these artifact mods, they modify the game. So one of the artifact mods this season is called Limit Break. It boosts your super damage. So your super is like a really big ability that takes a long time to charge. It boosts your super damage by 30% under certain conditions. So that's a lot. And another artifact mod that Minus is using right now with that linear fusion rifle, Queenbreaker, is called Particle Reconstruction. And so that mod, it applies a stacking debuff, which basically boosts the damage of linear fusion rifles and other fusion types by a lot. It's by up to like 27%, which normally as a solo player, a debuff like that is pretty hard to come by, right? A lot of the time as a solo player, you're kind of getting by with maybe 15% weakens, maybe no debuff at all. But this season, thanks to this artifact mod, which changes again every season, refreshing the sandbox, Minus is able to use this Queenbreaker to really, really, powerful effect.
Yeah, just going through, just keep it going. It's a pretty long encounter. Having to do it basically twice in a row is
for sure.
A lot of the same thing going on. It looks pretty repetitive. I mean, it is pretty repetitive, but that's kind of the beauty of it, is you take this one core sequence and just polish it down really nice, really smooth, until you can just do it perfectly, cleanly. Like, again, 6 people should be doing this. And he's able to do this without messing up so far. What is
come on,
doing
don't
here?
misbehave.
What in the world?
Yeah. Gotta let him back up, take his time. Sometimes this boss likes to misbehave and just follow players around, but Minus is prepped for it, lets him go behind the pillar, breaks line of sight, and he's back to marching back to his original position here. Minus just making sure some of those ads behind him aren't bothering him and flinching him. And again, using that Song of Flame to actually just tank this boss, ignore all that flamethrower damage on the second plate. Okay, Minus is moving his way to the third plate here. Another raid mod. Go ahead.
I was saying, sorry. Not just ignoring the boss, but ignoring all those little ads that might still be on those side platforms they're also shooting at him, and using them as little health packs. If you see him sometimes, he'll throw a bird out or a needle at them. And because of that Devour buff, that's going to fully heal him.
Right. So the cool thing about Devour is there's a bunch of different ways to get Devour in Destiny. The way that Minus is using to get Devour is an aspect, which we mentioned as part of like your build in Destiny, called Feed the Void. And what Feed the Void does is any ability kill that you get, whether it's these little lightning slide melees, or maybe a grenade kill, or like a regular melee, or as Aloe rightfully pointed out, a super kill from Song of Flame. So Song of Flame is not only like a tanking kind of super where you can kind of just sit there and take a bunch of damage and do a bunch of damage without worrying, but it's also a super that has a little bit of damage of its own, right? So you can throw out like a little bird, maybe throw out a big snap, and if any of those kill an enemy at all, you get Devour, which fully heals your health bar. So pretty good stuff, pretty good observation there from Aloe. And we're moving into our third phase here. Now, you may be worried about the health bar here, but again, like Aloe mentioned, even if Minus is not able to successfully empty the Explicator's health, a lot of ammo, and Final Stand does allow you to actually access the rest of the health bar and kill the boss if you can successfully defeat the boss with the timer of those final planets. Oh, just getting booped here.
A lot of
and here
shenanigans with the physics engine going on here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. I mean, and here you can see where the Eager Edge Sword is not only just for mechanics, but it can be used to kind of save yourself when the boss boops you off the map. I mean, having a boss that is an Incendiar model he's basically a guy with a big boop cannon, right? He could just send you off the map whenever he wants. And so being able to kind of like sword yourself back from the brink is obviously particularly quite helpful here. Increases the consistency of the running phase of this encounter for sure.
Not just the boss can launch you, but these phalanxes, these big shield guys, they can also smack you with their shield.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
even smack you. If they just walk into you, their shield can function like a brick wall. And if a brick wall's pushing into you, it sends you flying in Destiny.
Yep. Plenty of clips out there on Reddit, on YouTube, on whatever platform you have it, of people just walking into phalanxes, getting pinched between the phalanx and its shield, and just going sent into a wall and either dying or getting sent off the play area. So that can be pretty funny, but in a run like this, no time for laughter of that sort. So we're going to watch here. Minus just killing some of these scions here, finish the scouting phase, is now dunking in those middle planets here for that second shift. Boom, looking good. Attuning, aligning. You might have noticed here, by the way, that Minus was just glowing pearlescent, just glowing purple, just absolutely glowing. And no, that's not just Minus being, incredible, awesome as a player. That is actually a feature of the game called Transcendence, right? So when the final shape came out, which was Destiny's newest DLC, there was a new subclass added to the game called Prismatic. And Transcendence is basically kind of a state that you can be in, which allows you to spam these abilities and just really clear the field there, which was what Minus was doing. But now that Transcendence has run out, we're going into our third phase here. Let's pray for Minus here. Hope that the damage is looking good. So far, so good. Popping that Song of Flame. Again, that's the thing that Aloe mentioned earlier, getting that Devour proc and making sure those ads behind him are not being a pest. Let's go ahead and see here. I mean, yeah, damage is looking a lot better this phase compared to last phase. Oh, Explicator's playing so nice. Oh my goodness. Normally, after you hit that little threshold, you can see that glowing white threshold in Explicator's health bar. After you hit that threshold, Explicator in around 2.5 seconds will go immune, and then he'll force you to move to the next plate. Right there, Explicator was, let's just say he was being really nice. He was being really nice to Minus here, which is really excellent. Gave Minus some extra time to do some damage. Here are the 3 glowing darkness plates that Aloe mentioned earlier. Good shout from Aloe. And we're going to let Minus just melt this boss down.
This is the final stretch here. Just him and the boss squaring up.
Okay.
Oh, it's not enough.
I think so, yeah. Unlucky. Yeah, so there's the white mechanic we were talking about earlier for Final Stand.
Unfortunately, this fight has a lot of RNG with just getting enough ammo drops, with constantly swapping your heavies, and then back-to-back damage phases at the end. It can be really rough to just get enough ammo. And normally that Trinity will print enough, but sometimes RNG is just not on your side.
Yep, that's right. Bit unfortunate there. But as you can see, I mean, if we're talking, big damage, we're talking about 6-man versus solo. You saw on the wipe screen there, Minus just did barely south of 15 million damage. And if that sounds like a lot, it is a lot. I mean, this boss has a fair amount of health, even for, 6 people killing the boss. Certainly, under contest conditions when the raid first came out was a challenge, right? And even now, with 6 people, I mean, it's still a lot of health to go through. And certainly for a solo player, I mean, that's even more impressive.
I was not thinking that straight. It's okay.
Oh, all good. Little mechanic swipe there, no problem. Not too much time lost.
Is it okay for me to ask how much time I have? Like, where am I in the run exactly? Timer.
We are currently looking at around 46 minutes.
46 minutes only?
Okay. Okay, I mean, that's like what, half your time left?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
40
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
That's perfectly
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Yeah, it's doable.
I was hoping the first try on the Destiny decided to be Destiny the video game.
I mean, that's such a shame. Yeah, your damage was looking good. It was looking like, a fries in the bag type of deal. But unfortunately, yeah.
It's just more content.
More content.
Yeah.
We love content. Yep.
We love content.
We love giving the people in chat some more gameplay to watch, of course. Looking good.
It's just the nature of it being an always online game is sometimes things like that just happen and you can't really plan around it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, as a speedrunner myself, like plenty of times, I mean, definitely people have lost runs, including me, to someone disconnecting or someone lagging out or, someone's game crashing, someone's driver's timing out. Lots of things can happen in this game, right? You play like most speedrunning games, usually not really a risk factor. But in Destiny, It's the Wild West out here, right? Lots of exciting things going on in the game, live service game, fresh content, new updates, artifact mods, all this stuff. But comes with the downsides too.
That's definitely a way to put it.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, you know? Yeah. And the funny thing is, something I'd like to mention as well, solo flawlessing this raid is like a big achievement in like the solo community in Destiny 2. Solo community in Destiny 2, love them. Shout out the solo raid server, of course, which, Minus and others have taken a big part of. Oh, all good. Happens. Mechanics wipe, all good.
My memory is
I mean, listen, I don't blame you. I would be very, very frustrated with having a crash wipe as well. Really, a really big shame. But I believe in you. Keep it going. Keep it pumping. 3 phases of clean damage, easy final, and we'll be moving on to Nez, which is the final boss, of course. All right.
I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but once again, like, this is made for 6 people each. Like, It's made to be something that is at least somewhat difficult for 6 people. People like to joke on this raid for being a bit too easy. But it doesn't matter if it's easy when you're cutting your manpower by 80%.
Right. I mean, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Definitely a challenge. But Destiny raids, compared to most Destiny content or even most speedrunning content, especially if you're doing a solo challenge like this raid, when done as a 6-man activity for speedrunning, under 10-minute affair, right? But Minus has to sit through the gauntlet and play consistently, accurately, precisely, paying attention for 40 plus minutes, right? So this is a much bigger deal for one player to handle. On top of that increased workload that we mentioned, all these enemies, all these mechanics that you have to handle, you have to be very precise and very accurate and consistent, but for an extended period of time as well, which what makes a solo achievement like this so prestigious and, kind of a big deal, right? And to do it, in front of a lot of people and, with a time constraint, it's tough, 100%. It's pretty tough.
Because it's all about just maintaining that level of perfection for, I think this encounter is like a 12, 13 minute straight encounter before he gets a break.
Yeah, pretty tough. Definitely. I mean, that is the entire length of a raid in the 6-man speedrunning kind of space, right? So to put that into perspective, I mean, it's just one encounter of just having to play pretty much at the top level for quite a long time. And even though you have these tools like Devour and, Lightning Surge and Song of Flame and all these survivability tools, Destiny is Destiny. You can get sent off the map. There's a lot of things that can happen to you that can go wrong. And so being able to I like to think of being an endgame player, a successful endgame player in Destiny, as being someone that's good at managing risk, right? That is aware of all of these little things that can happen to you and can kind of plan accordingly. But of course, sometimes the game crashes. Not much you can do about that, right? So it is what it is.
I think something we haven't mentioned yet is actually this shotgun that he is using. It's the specific type, the specific perks on it are more so important for the master version of this, but they're still pretty useful here. Just really good for killing these colossi, and in particular, anytime he kills those centurions in the middle who have these shields, these red fire shields, it'll also automatically reload his shotgun. He's not using it for them a ton. He's using the melee for them a lot, the electric burst. But, if he needs to, it can just be a free way to get a reload on his shotgun.
Yeah, pretty interesting perk. It's called Genesis. A lot of the time, you're not going to see people use that perk very much anymore, but Minus has found a clever use for it to, give him a little quality of life. So, we're back to damage here. Another thing we're going to talk about when it comes to damage here, you might notice there is a mark on the middle of the boss's body, a little red X going on there. What's up with that? Warlock, which is the class that Minus is playing, as we mentioned before, builds have all these different components. You have mods, you have raid mods, you have fragments, aspects, what have you. Another element of the Warlock build is something called exotic armor, right? So you have normal armor, which is just, the clothes you got on, maybe you get some stats, maybe you get some mods. Exotic armor is special. Exotic armor has a special effect that makes the exotic armor feel exotic, right? Literally living up to its name. And so that mark there, as you can see, it's that kind of yellow chest piece that Minus had on in his inventory there, is called Sanguine Alchemy. And so when you damage an enemy with Sanguine Alchemy, they get this mark effect. And then when you do additional damage to them, you get a 10% free damage boost. So on Warlock, really, really helpful. Seeing a free 10% damage boost like that in any content is helpful, but especially when all of your damage matters as a solo raid player where you don't have any teammates that can make up for your mistakes. Sanguine Alchemy is obviously a great friend, a great help to have in a damage phase like that.
And the existence of that minor but still very noticeable damage buff on just this piece of armor is just kind of there's doing good damage to the boss in this game is very much a knowledge check. There are so many little pieces here and there that just 10% here, 20% there, 30% here, 25% there, and just everything comes together to make this really complete damage build where sometimes you're doing upwards of double the damage of if you just didn't do anything and shot the boss.
Right.
And currently, you know, the main way it works in the game is you can have one buff and one debuff and an infinite number of these modifiers. I've heard them called a lot. Where a buff is a damage buff you get. He's getting that through using his needle on the boss. He's getting a buff called Radiant, which gives him a pretty decent damage buff. And then, as we mentioned earlier, that artifact mod, Particle Reconstruction, is giving a debuff on the boss to make him take more damage. And then that exotic chest piece, Sanguine Alchemy, is in that gray area where it's a buff, but it's not the same type of buff, so it's able to stack with everything really nicely.
Right. Yeah, like Al was mentioning here, the MMO aspect of Destiny is kind of interesting. You know, like in a traditional MMO, you have all these people in different roles, and you know you're stacking all these different buffs on your screen, so your screen's absolutely covered in them. Destiny's a shooter, right? It's a looter shooter, but it also has those elements, right? So it's kind of interesting. You have buffs, you have debuffs, like Al mentioned. You know, there's surges, you have artifact mods, you have modifiers, exotic armor. There's all this stuff that goes into it, right? And Al was right to point that out. I mean, in a solo environment, it's often very important that you're tuning all these things to the right specifications so that you can pump out kind of optimal DPS where it matters the most. Because, you know, you're one person. You're doing the job of 6, right? You gotta, like, you know, you gotta optimize a little. So that's what's kind of going on here.
You gotta use everything he has at his disposal.
That's right. Okay, we're moving on to another damage phase. Minus here, just cleaning up the arena. Beautiful first phase, might I say. Left of the Peon planets, looking very beautiful, looking great. So we're gonna move on to the second phase.
That first phase was
Not again.
Oh no! Come
Back
on,
away,
behave,
man.
behave.
Leave me alone.
There's the
Beautiful,
needle
nice
kill.
devour
Perfect.
proc. Good work.
He's just
Scion
bullying me,
gonna
Jay.
launch
He's
him in
taking
the
my
air.
lunch money.
All good.
Another Scion launch coming in. Dodged it. No, not quite.
All good. Got the plate done.
Well, this is just taking a while to swap there.
Nice little song of flame in the air. Beautiful. Another bird sent out to that Scion on the right. Get rid of him. Being a bit pesky. Looking good. Cleanly moving into that third plate. Oh, look at that. What a nice long plate there. Seamless transition, might I say. Nice walking into that third plate there. And there, yeah. So another interesting thing about this encounter, by the way, is that there is an encounter timer, right? So remember in that first encounter, we had that Tormentor reset mechanic, but you know, if you took too long, you died to the Darkness Wave. In the second encounter, we had the same thing, Imminent Expulsion, where if Minus didn't finish the nodes fast enough, you wipe, right? In this encounter, there's no timer on the top middle of the screen, but there actually is a running encounter timer that you can see kind of visually in the middle of the map. And so if this timer fills up and you haven't satisfied the Explicator and, you know, got his dinner plates to him, it's, you know, it's Jover. It's Jover. So Minus is actually on a time constraint here, something we don't really, you know, talk about often because it's kind of assumed that Minus is going to kind of play correctly, but there is a bit of time pressure. There is a bit of time pressure in this encounter. Your damage phase is included in that as well. So there's a bit of, you know, like pressure to perform here and kind of get things moving along. Yeah, and another thing I wanted to point out, because we you know, the past couple Destiny speedruns that have been on, you know, GDQ Hotfix, been pretty short, comparatively speaking, because they're like 6-man speedruns or, dungeon speedruns, which are considerably shorter. We're talking 10, 15, 20-minute affairs. When it comes to a solo raid, I'm kind of glad that we have this opportunity, this open space, to talk more about the intricacies of Destiny, because a lot of the time when we are introducing Destiny to just a gaming audience, not necessarily a Destiny audience, we don't have a lot of time to talk about buffs, debuffs, surges, like all these intricacies. So it's kind of nice to have some breathing room while Minus is, making quick work of these ads here, to kind of talk about all these little things that kind of go into Destiny speedrunning and just playing Destiny at a high level in general, right? It's not stuff that's kind of obvious at, on the outset, but stuff that we definitely like to talk about nonetheless.
Yeah, so
I'm glad I could have you on the show to talk about it.
Thank you, for sure. Pleasure being here.
Very great. There's just so many small things constantly adding up every single second. Just every decision. I mean, not just the time constraint A just mentioned earlier about, I think it's a 3-minute persistent timer each cycle, but every time he goes to move these planets, he's on a pretty tight timer. On one of those cycles there, he was seconds away from losing it.
Yeah, so like Aloe mentions here, every time he picks up a planet, well, not during this section at least, but so yeah, every time he picks up a planet, there's going to be a timer at the top here, that bar, planetary shift, and that represents the kind of mechanics phase timer that Minus has to complete these planet moves. And if Minus doesn't successfully bring the Explicator his dinner plates in time, he wipes, right? So there's like a mini timer as well. There's like 3 different mini timers that are going on in this encounter at the same time. So a lot of kind of invisible time constraints here while Minus is just blazing through these mechanics, but know that if some mistakes were made here, Minus would be in a lot of trouble. So just scouting out for some ammo here, getting rid of some of these pesky ads. Oh, nice little love tap there from the Explicator. Thank you.
You wanted to give me a hug after rushing me down the first damage phase? You wanted to say
yeah,
sorry?
Of course.
You gotta be nice and apologize. The kind of thing to do.
So we have dark, light from left to right here. So Minus is going to go ahead, start on the middle plate, move to the dark planet, and then move to the light planet to meet this alternating planet requirement here. Okay, nice little Song of Flame pop there once again. Bird sent out for Devour. Placing down an Empowering Rift, which is another type of buff here that you can have. Song of Flame being used again for that damage buff as well. And look at that. I mean, send it home. Send it home, Minus. Explicator staring you down.
I'm actually just gonna literally play it so safe and just pick up ammo right now. I'm just not.
Totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. Yep. 100% I get it. And as you can see here, obviously, oh, look at that. So much ammo. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. See the Enrage mechanic here. Normally, standard Destiny boss would wipe you here, but Minus is playing against the Explicator. So we're going to have a bit of extra time to deal with this final stand health bar.
Another thing that hasn't been mentioned, that glowing orb on the right side of his screen. And as opposed to Sanguine Alchemy, you can actually swap to a different exotic, the Helmet Speaker's Sight, which turns his healing grenade, which he has, you can just kind of throw as a little personal health pack. It actually turns into a turret that will just keep dispensing healing to him. And down
Come on,
goes the
beautiful. Yes. Yo, chat, let's get some excitement here for Minus. Really unfortunate on that crash, of course, but excellent recovery. Excellent recovery, I must say. Even a heavy brick for some sword ammo for the transition section. Congratulations, Minus. Still well ahead of pace here for our expected time. So plenty of time to work on Nezarec, of course. Great work. Great work.
This is yet another airlock hallway where he has to do nodes. So if you have any announcements you want to make, this would be a good time.
Absolutely. Chat, remember, your subs, Prime Gaming subs, gift subs, and bits shared here on the GDQ Twitch channel help support Games Done Quick Hotfix and shows like Crosshair, Speedruns from the Crypt. This is coming up next, Parallel Universe, As Seen on TV, and all the other GDQ Hotfix shows. So if you enjoy watching speedruns, consider subscribing to the channel to get access to all of our emotes, have ad-free viewing, and you can chat with other subscribers during our replays, like the one we're going to replaying tonight after we finish Speedruns from the Crypt. We're going to replay everything for you all over again.
Okay, thank you, Dane. And of course, we love the love that GDQ Hotfix has been showing Destiny as of late. There was definitely a little bit of a dry spell where Destiny wasn't really on GDQ for a while, but we've had, I think it's like 3.5, 4-ish Destiny runs on GDQ Hotfix or some variant of GDQ in the past like year or so. So
yeah, you can thank Oscar for that.
yeah, of course. Shout out Asuka, of course. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful host that she is. And we're just about done with this, as they call it, the second puzzle here, second transition puzzle. And we're going to be moving into a nice, big, beautiful open air space on this Root of Nightmares raid on the way to the final boss, Nezarec, which, if you guys remember the Tormentor from first encounter, that big guy that was melted with Lord of Wolves, Nezarec is kind of like that. You know, he looks similar to that, except he's massive, and he's quite the chatter, He does like to talk a bit with you. Oh, there you go. He's talking right now.
I think it's really funny here. He says such tenacious adventures. No, I'm just by myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not.
Nezarec seems to be a little under the weather. Yeah, you can't really see who's on his screen right now. It's just one person. One tenacious adventurer.
Minus doing the solo, not canon confirmed.
Yep. Not canon. You are not the solo guardian. Okay, so as you can see here, we mentioned earlier that Warlock has access to this aspect called Heat Rises. And Heat Rises, Warlock normally has a limited double jump, okay? And the double jump that Warlock has access to is called Glide. It's this little poomphy effect that you can see that Minus is making use of right now, that little burst of air behind him. That is a Warlock Glide. And so normally Glide is limited to a specific duration once you activate it, but Heat Rises allows you to keep it active indefinitely until your Heat Rises runs out, essentially. And so Minus used that earlier to skip over a huge section of this transition, which is pretty cool. I mean, most of the time that transition, you're going to have to walk around quite a bit of the map. So it's nice to be able to just kind of skip over it. And just like that, Minus is already at the final boss platform just as I finished talking. Perfect.
Right there at the end. I don't know if we've mentioned it, but there was this gun called the Mountaintop. It is a very small handheld rocket launcher that it was an amazing gun for a pretty long time, but it kind of got set to the wayside. It couldn't bring its power up, and they brought it back. And it was pretty exciting because it's just a really good gun. But they brought it back with a new feature where you can now rocket jump with it. And combining that with the ability of Heat Rises, he was able to just fly straight up and ignore a good chunk at the end of that little section to get to the boss quicker.
And so, guys, okay, so if you remember, guys, during that 2-3 transition, so the transition between second and third encounter, we mentioned how there was this darkness wave that would fly across the screen and would just kill you instantly if you weren't protected. Now, in this encounter, Bungie taught you the mechanic. What is Nezarec? Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. So again, Destiny's Destiny. The bosses can be a little jank sometimes, the way they behave. This is definitely one of the bosses that does that. That's putting it lightly. Yeah, one of the bosses of all time, one of the boats. But he's known for sending people off the map, flying off the map himself. He's just an off the map enjoyer. So as you can see, there was a light wave there. The darkness wave that we saw during that transition puzzle section was of a different kind. And so at the start of every kind of mechanic section here, there's a mechanic you can do where you can shoot the shoulders. As you can see, boom, pop, pop, darkness. That's the wave that Nezarec is going to create when he tries to wipe you after a certain amount of time. And so Minus here, again, as he's getting just bounced up and down by this boss that just loves sending players flying all over the place, including like that, is going to keep that in his mind. And remember to create the correct refuge in order to prevent being wiped by the boss's wave attack. And so here, remember second encounter, Bungie has a nice way of combining previous encounters and kind of integrating their mechanics into final encounters or future encounters. Remember second encounter where you had a light side and a dark side when it came to nodes, and you kind of interleave your activity between these two sides in order to complete them successfully as a solo player. That's actually what Minus is doing right now as we speak. Minus is interleaving from left to right, finishing a little bit of light, finishing a little bit of dark. And that way, damage will be done on time, Minus will have plenty of opportunity to create ammo, and it's a fairly safe and consistent way to play and get refuge as well.
Yeah, so this going back and forth is the way you create these refuges is by mixing the two. So if he needs a dark refuge, he actually has to bring the buff from the light side to the dark side, or vice versa to make a light refuge. So that gives a natural like opportunity and desire to go back and forth. Normally, again, if you have 6 people, or even just 2 who are really, really fast at it, you can complete all of these nodes without needing a single refuge and just zoom. But solo, takes a bit longer, so he's got to go through every phase. You have 2 opportunities to save yourself, which he's already done both of, and now he's getting ready to go into the damage phase.
Let's go ahead and get ready. Minus is, of course, making sure on the right loadout here for damage. Waiting for the sign, boom. That laser in the sky means damage is starting, and boom. Minus is getting ready to start some damage here. And kind of hiding in this little hidey hole here because this boss is famously annoying during damage. On top of his slam attacks and his booping you, he can easily just like send you off the map during damage, right? Which, doesn't seem very fair for a boss. I mean, most Destiny bosses are pretty tame when it comes to damage because your focus is on doing damage and not on living. This boss is not the same. Not the same. He does not care. He will just send you off the map. There we go. First phase.
Interesting thing about damage on this boss is the current strategy right now, normally, is you take that really good Lord of Wolves shotgun we were talking about earlier, you point it at his shoulder, which is his weak spot, and you shoot him. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Very, very strong gun. But Minus wanted to showcase a more interesting strategy using the Merciless Hezen Vengeance rotation. Merciless, very strong gun called a fusion rifle. You charge up, it does like a burst, and then you charge up again.
Yeah.
Merciless, however, has 2 things that really help it out. 1, if you keep shooting, it'll charge faster and faster to the point where it's basically charging instantly. And 2, if you get a kill before you reload, it gets a huge damage buff. And combining those, it's just, especially because it is a fusion rifle, which we mentioned earlier, that particle reconstruction artifact perk, it works with Merciless as well. It just makes it do so much damage, but it runs out of ammo real quickly, so that's where the backup comes in. Hezen Vengeance, very strong rocket launcher that helps him with this thing called a bait and switch rotation, where he's using all 3 of his weapons in sequence to automatically reload and buff the damage of his rocket launcher.
All right, we're popping both the shoulders once again to reveal the type of wave attack that Nezarec is going to throw out. Another mechanic here that I want to mention here, you see this purple kind of aura effect that was on Minus's camera there for a second. This is called Nezarec's Hatred. Nezarec, as you can imagine, not only a yapper, but apparently quite a hateful guy as well. The way that you avoid being booped is when he exposes his crit in the center of his chest like that, Minus shoots it with a sniper, and so this makes Nezarec, again, very hateful, very angry towards Minus, and Nezarec will just relentlessly pursue Minus around the map while this hatred is in play, which is, kind of annoying. Remember how we talked about during second encounter where you have to run all these nodes and there's these barriers and gladiators and incendiaries shooting you? Well, now you have a big boss-sized tormentor following you around, slamming on your flowers and threatening to send you off the map, and of course suppressing you as well, an ability that tormentors have, which stops you from using any of your abilities to kind of heal yourself or save yourself. So very, very annoying, very, very hectic encounter for sure. Certainly more annoying than, running on second encounter, for example, where you don't have a tormentor chasing you all the time. So again, hatred received there one more time. Minus is going to go ahead and switch to this glaive, a defensive weapon that Minus is going to use to just absolutely nuke this Colossus. This glaive also has a perk on it called Lead from Gold. And what this does is all this heavy ammo that Minus has been generating throughout the encounter, he's kind of getting like a 2-for-1 deal here. So the way Lead from Gold works is when you pick up heavy ammo, you get special ammo as well. And so because Minus was primarily focused on generating heavy ammo, this is just a way to also fill up his special ammo as well, so that he can use it for damage. So damage start, we're getting ready. Minus is kind of going into the cubby here, getting ready for damage. Loadout prepped.
He's kind of watching these pulses and counting in his head to know when damage is going to start. And here it goes. Big spiral, laser beam. Gets the kill with Merciless, reloads it for that damage buff, and just unloads.
Looking good. instantly gets another kill to refresh Impetus, which is Merciless's perk that Aloe was mentioning earlier, which grants you that damage boost when you reload after killing an enemy. Boom. Looking good. Swapping loadouts to the rocket. Oh, tragic. All good, all good, all good. We get a damage reset. No worries. Still plenty of time.
Nezarec is just an absolute annoyance when it comes to just... He will mess with you in the most unexpected ways, curving shots around walls, launching you off the map.
100%. Yep.
Just getting in your way physically while trying to do these nodes so you can't do them in time.
Really just a hateful guy. Hateful guy, not a nice guy. So I'm glad we're doing away with him with this run. And just making sure he doesn't have any hand in any of that anymore. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention here, chat. Let's show some respect for Minus here for not using Lord of Wolves on this boss, because Lord of Wolves would have been a much easier clear here, much easier option. People have even 2-phased this boss with Lord of Wolves when you have 3-phase to kind of like get it done. So shout out to Minus for showing off this rotation. We were talking before this, and Minus was like, you know, Merciless and Rocket has just such a storied history as part of the solo damage strategies used on this boss. Very, very iconic. Not a lot of the time do you see like Merciless Rocket used on bosses. So shout out to Minus for, you know, being willing to put things on the line here and show off a harder, more punishing rotation, but one that's certainly, you know, cooler than dumping Lord of Wolves maybe into the boss's shoulder, right? So shout out to Minus for that one. Okay, Darkness Wave coming out. Minus survives it. Of course, protected by the refuge.
Nezarec
and just moving through again.
Nezarec's gonna teleport back up to his home platform up in the middle.
Yep, nice little shoulder reset. Bang, bang. Another Darkness Wave.
Interesting little fact about when he starts that Hatred, the instant he starts moving his hand, even though the crit spot hasn't appeared yet, you can still shoot it and interrupt the attack. He's done that a few times, I think, but like right there, got it just super quick. Don't even get booped once because that'll really slow you down. Because it turns out having to land a sniper shot at a precise spot while flying through the air like a gymnast is not easy.
For sure, yeah. It's just so funny just watching people do like solo Nezarec, like solo of this boss, and the boss is just, you know, he's just groaning and moaning and he's just jumping on top of you and you're like, I'm just doing my nodes, you know, I'm just going under him, right? Plenty of times during the solo where Nezarec has, if you've been paying attention, been about to jump on Minus, and Minus is just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go under you, yeah, gotta do my next node, just driving by here, don't mind me. So kind of interesting, kind of like the seeing just the craziness of like a boss level tormentor jumping on someone, and then it's just the relative calm here that Minus has got.
There you go. You got the instant shoot on the heart there.
Yeah, just what you were talking about. Good stuff. Finishing up light side here. Colossus covering his eyes. Bit of a taste of his own medicine there. On the blinding missiles.
Those blinding missiles, just like Nezarec, absolute nuisance.
Yep. A lot of just annoying stuff in this raid, huh? Just just annoying stuff. Incendiar backpacks, you know, Incendiar's booping you, Explicator booping you, Nezarec slamming you, just the whole works. Lovely stuff.
Here we go, right into DPS again.
Nice. There's that speaker side turret again we were talking about during Explicator.
Yep, just gonna sit there and heal him so he can stay safe. There is this Transcendence he does here. Transcendence, along with giving him a unique grenade, that Void Vortex there, also gives him just a 5% damage buff to everything. Just a good thing to have. And on top of that, this grenade and these ability kills are gonna proc activate his Devour we talked about on Explicator. Now that Devour, that's going to buff his Nova Bomb. He has another artifact perk called Limit Break, where if he has a matching buff, I think you mentioned this earlier, right, with Song of Flame?
Yep.
Yeah. So now he needs a Void buff, which he's using Devour for, because Nova Bomb is a Void super. And Nova Bomb is just a giant bomb that does a lot of damage. So buffing that by 30%, it gets some pretty nice numbers on it to just absolutely nuke the boss.
Yep, Limit Break, certainly a big friend of the solo community, of solo players in general. So I'm sure plenty of them are thankful for that. in their low man's solo challenges this season, Minus being one of them. Ooh, nice little clean shot there, strafing across the middle of killing these ads. And of course, again, soloing an encounter like this, it's about learning timings. It's about learning precision. And that's just like a demonstration of it, right? Just driving by, knowing exactly when Nezarec is going to raise his hand to do his mechanic. Normally, in a raid, you'd have one guy kind of just staring at the Nezarec, waiting for his chest to open, and then shooting, right? But Minus knows the timing. Minus just like, yeah, someone's job, boom. I'll just do it by myself. Couple seconds, I know exactly when it's going to happen. Makes the refuge, continues doing the nodes.
Some groups
Keep
would
it up.
have separate people making the refuge as well. So you're having all these mechanics, running light side, running the dark side, making both refuges if needed, shooting the boss's shoulders, shooting his chest, taking the boss's aggro. All of these jobs are things that different people might have to do during the encounter. And he's just doing all of it alone, seamlessly. Just flying through the air from node to node, take a quick pit stop, right as Nez starts raising his hand, shoot his shoulder, shoot his chest, right back to it. He's got his aggro, just go right under him. Who cares?
Yep. So we're approaching kind of the midway point of his mechanics phase here. Have already survived the first wave attack. Second wave attack is coming soon. So Minus is going to flee across the arena here. Get ready to create that next refuge, Darkness's refuge. Because again, we saw the dark shoulder break earlier. And Minus is going to start getting ready for the second damage phase here.
See here, Nezarec is
Nezarec.
glowing very bright white. He's about to explode. And
Boom.
Right, I wasn't gonna
There we
make it.
yeah, you saw that right there. Nezarec tried his hardest to body block Minus from reaching that refuge to be safe from the explosion. Barely made it with 1 second left. But that's just the type of thing you gotta be ready for. I mean, he's going to try to harass you and annoy you at every opportunity.
All right, switching to the pre-damage loadout here. Got the glaive on, got the merciless on.
Getting some ammo.
Getting some ammo indeed. Getting devour. Oh, another cool thing we actually forgot to mention last encounter is that the class item that Minus has on here. Ooh,
Oh,
all right. All good. Yeah.
Dodges.
Full health, all chilling. So the class item that Minus actually has on here, we talked about earlier how Prismatic, the new subclass that Bungie added in the final shape, DLC of Destiny 2, has access to these cool exotic class items, right? And one of them is the Syntheseps class item, which is the big melee damage boost that Aloe mentioned earlier. The other part of that class item is the Assassin buff, which actually allows Minus to turn invisible after a powered melee kill. So, helps Minus survive a little bit there as well. All right, going into our second damage phase here. Merciless Impetus kill procced. Nezarec is teleporting, being a bit annoying.
Take advantage of the time of him teleporting to get a quick reload in.
Perfect, yep. Just absolutely baking his upper thigh here.
Here's the loadout swap. Nova Bomb.
There's that Nova Bomb we were talking about earlier. Yep, big explosion, plenty of numbers there.
Here's the bait and switch rotation, where he's using all three of his weapons to get a buff on his rocket launcher and automatically reload it with the perk Envious Arsenal. It might not look like he's using all three guns, but that is his kinetic weapon there is actually the exotic Wither Horde, which is, it's a grenade launcher, but instead of shooting a grenade, it shoots this weird blob that poisons the enemy that it hits. So by poisoning Nezarec, he's able to functionally be always using that gun. So now to trigger those perks, he just has to pull out his assault rifle, shoot him, and then go back to his rocket launcher.
Weird blob. I like that. I'm going to be using that from now on.
That's what it is.
Please stick the boss with the weird blob. Thank you. Looking good here. Okay, once again, proccing Devour. Already exposed the shoulder. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, little love tap from the boss there. It seems the bosses of Root of Nightmares, they seem to love giving Minus hugs, love taps. They just really want you to complete this raid, First you got Explicator hugging you on 2 of your phases. You got Nezarec just kind of bumping into you. Refuge made. Looking good. Continuing these dark side mechanics. Oh my, this Nezarec guy, man, he is just relentless. Relentless. Okay. Oh, another one. he's supposed to be teleporting here, and he just can't resist you.
He just does whatever he wants.
Yep, Nezarec does as he pleases. Okay, shoulder popping. Nice. We got a light wave. Boom. Triple crit there, getting the hatred. One more thing that I actually neglected to mention earlier is that this hatred buff, why do we shoot Nezarec in the crit? Like, why even bother, right? What's the point of the hatred buff? It's not that it like wipes you if you don't shoot the crit. What it actually does to you is this purple aura that you saw on Minus's screen. If he didn't get that hatred by shooting Nezarec's crit, it would create this debuff on him that would just boop him up repeatedly over and over and over. So on top of Nezarec, you know, slamming you, suppressing you, all these ads shooting you, having to do the nodes, you would be getting booped up into the sky like you're on a trampoline for the next like 10, 15 seconds. So not pleasant, not pleasant. So that's why the crit is shot, if you are wondering.
Yeah, and it's important to do that because if you don't get enough progress, so he'll do the explosion, you can make a refuge, you can do the explosion, you make a refuge. On the third one, you can't. The third explosion in a cycle will always kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
so go ahead.
Another important note is that each time he's exploding here, he's going faster and faster. So the first explosion, you have a while, you can get like half of the nodes done. The next explosion, you don't have very long, so you can only get a few more. The third explosion, I mean, it's not instant, but he has time to finish that one node on the left, get some ammo, finish the one node on the right, and Nez is going to be ready to explode. So the timer accelerating really makes stopping that bouncy house a lot more important.
Indeed. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Nice little glaive melee on the node there to finish. Nezarec giving a little slam to finish off. And like we mentioned, right, like all the encounters in this raid have some sort of time constraint. First encounter, second encounter, third encounter, we mentioned all the timers. That's your timer in the fourth encounter, right? That third wave is guaranteed to kill you, so you have to kill in that time. Okay. The boop does not hit Minus here. If one of Nezarec's boop attacks... Oh, unlucky. Yeah.
Come on, man.
All good, all good.
Nah, it's space. I had to reset it here.
Okay, fair enough.
So unlike the Explicator, if you don't defeat Nez, if you don't make him hit that threshold by the end of that third cycle, he just blows up and kills you. There's not much you can do about that, unfortunately.
Yep.
It just
all right.
Unfortunately happens to where he can just do that and knock you off the little safety ledge.
Yeah, it happens for sure.
I think a good thing to point out also is when you talked about the Laura Wolf slab before, also, since Laura Wolf is also a special weapon, you get to use the Eager Edge Sword to run. I don't get to use that here. I just have a rocket launcher and I'm blocking.
Yep, that's a good point. Actually, yeah, if Nezarec were to send Minus off the map, you can actually sword swing while you're suppressed. So again, a little bit of a clutch factor there that's involved with that Eager Edge Sword, but it also makes the node running way, way faster, right? So you have plenty of time to kind of dawdle, walk around, see some sights, make some ammo, deal with the ads, deal with Nezarec in a lot more of a forgiving fashion. So that's a fair point that was made there. And I mean, you saw how much an Eager Edge Sword benefits mechanics when we were talking about the Explicator encounter, where there were so many ads and so much time that Minus had the ability to swap between a sword and a more proficient heavy weapon for raid boss DPS in between every phase.
How are we looking on time here?
How much time do we have left?
Well, I mean, we crossed the 125 mark. We can maybe throw another 5 minutes at it.
Yeah. Okay. Looking good here. Finishing up the part of the light side here. Nezarec again, chasing Minus. I mean, just seeing this boss's behavior during damage phases and seeing his behavior during mechanics phases, it's kind of a wonder that, people are able to, as Minus has done in the past, solo flawless this raid. Finish the entire raid from first encounter all the way to fourth encounter with all those time restraints, with all those damage checks, with all the stuff that can happen to you, game crashes, you know, bosses sending you off the map, and not die even once, not fail even once, right? So it's very, very impressive, this kind of solo achievement here, because there's just so much inconsistency, base inconsistency that's just built into this game, right? So pretty impressive stuff, for sure. Okay. Pre-damage loadout looking good. Got the glaive on as well.
Oh, another thing. There is an artifact, another artifact, always coming back to the artifact. No Bell, which is a thing for his glaive that lets him, if he melee kills a few enemies, he can just get free ammo for it out of nowhere. So that's just another thing, along with the lead from gold and all of this ammo printing he's doing, just yet another thing he can throw on to just get that ammo. And it's important with this rotation, you know, unlike Lord of Wolves, you just kind of stand there and shoot him, you always have enough ammo. This rotation's very ammo dependent.
Indeed. Okay, so we're entering our first phase here. Nezarek is cooperating for now. So the thing about this boss, when he does his teleport attack, he does that attack if you get hit by one of his boop attacks. And so because Minus wasn't hit by one of those, oops, okay. Coming back here, nice, good recovery, solid recovery.
I missed the wither though.
All good, all good, all good. Okay, okay.
I mean, do you think I should just switch the lore?
Up to you, up to you.
I would have to make the loadouts quickly though. I mean, it's possible. He just needs to like cooperate for one phase. Like, I can afford a bad damage phase because I had 3 of them. The damage is kind of lenient. It's not too tight, but it's pretty tight. But if he can just cooperate for one phase and stop being rude, I could pretty easily get it. I don't know what's happening really. It happened this morning when I was doing practice runs also. He kind of just was not cooperating. Might be my positioning also.
Yeah, I mean, again, Nezarek, very annoying boss, very inconsistent behavior.
Very much just does, Nezarek does whatever Nezarek feels like doing.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before with Destiny runs at GDQ. Destiny's a punishing game to speedrun. Punishing game to speedrun. There's just so many factors that you can only try to account for so much, right? It's a lot of stuff you have to put up with, to contend with, and not just execution that you have to play consistently.
The whole thing is like, I don't think a good way to describe it, but it's just like practicing a really tight routine, just day in, day out, constantly practicing, preparing for every eventuality. And then you get there and the coaches have you just like run on your head.
Yeah.
Like you didn't
and
plan
the coaches,
for that.
And the coaches just they just clobber you with a baseball bat and they send you flying off the turf. That's one way to put it, you know. Or the game is canceled, you know. The game crashes, the game's canceled.
Yeah.
That can happen too. Make a joke. You show up for a basketball game and it turns out everyone else is playing soccer.
Yeah. Everyone's playing a different game. So, and the game's rules change all the time too, you know. So it's definitely an interesting game to speedrun, to do challenge runs of, but part of the reason why a lot of people like it too. So pretty interesting for sure.
Just incredibly dynamic. Like all of these times where the game does something ridiculous, there can be just as many moments where the game does something in the other direction. It works in your favor. It's just so hilarious that it just makes you fall in love with the game more. There's just so many moments like that on both sides.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation, you know, Nezarek on a solo run, him launching you 3 miles into the stratosphere, it's a nuisance. It's something you might not have been ready for that just happened. If you're playing with some friends relaxing and that same thing happens, it could just be an absolute moment of hilarity.
Just hilarious, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've played a couple games and Destiny is definitely the one where I've seen just the most ridiculous, funny things happen to friends, and it's definitely always puts a smile on my face seeing some of the things that the wonderful bosses of Destiny can do to people.
Hey, you mind if I jump in with one more announcement?
Absolutely.
Awesome, yeah. So, folks, if you're enjoying the run and you enjoy GDQ Hotfix, you can join the official GDQ Discord server and add the Hotfix role where you can keep tabs on upcoming events and shows, talk with staff like myself and other showrunners, and more. Use ! Discord and Twitch chat for more info.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. Starting our first damage phase once more, getting that impetus kill, reloading. Looking good, looking good. Yes, nice second impetus kill.
A weird shift to the side there.
Yeah. Normally you want Nezarec to just be sitting completely still, hitting that nice thigh muscle, that Nezarec thigh muscle right there. Boom.
Last
beautiful Witherhoard stick.
Here's the setup
for the limit break.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, this is how Nezarec is supposed to behave, if you were wondering. There we go. Look at that damage.
Phase.
Look at that damage.
Insane damage.
Excellent
That
damage
was
there.
relieves me a lot.
Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Yeah. Looking a lot better here. All right, keep it up, keep it up.
So tell you what, since we're cycling to the next damage phase, Aloe and Aegis, did you want to do any quick shout outs before we finish this fight up?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead first, if you don't mind, Aloe. There's a couple kind of community events that the Destiny community is hosting in the near-ish future. There's going to be a solo tournament where players like Minus, if you're interested in watching this sort of gameplay, are going to be completing gauntlets of solo raid encounters back-to-back for points, going up against each other. Cool little tournament elimination bracket style. Very, very interesting. There's plenty of encounters in Destiny that are soloable, and a lot of them are maybe even more interesting than the ones you're seeing here, even more unique in terms of their strategy, execution. Definitely check those out if you're interested. And there's also a speedrun tournament being hosted by the Destiny 2 speedrun panel community for Sunder Doctrine, which is the most recent dungeon that was released in this game. So again, if you're interested in Destiny speedrunning in general, plenty of cool stuff on the horizon. So I would say definitely try to check those out. I'm sure they'll be streamed on Twitch and elsewhere.
Before I do my shout out, I just want to point out the multiple really close calls that he's had with Nezarec, just launching around here.
I was struggling to stay composed there while I was talking, watching that. So to be playing that, I mean, you know, kudos to you for that.
And I'd like to give a shout out to me and Minus's clan. We are the Gay Gathering. We're a very welcoming community, and just honestly, just a good shout out to the whole LGBTQ community as a whole, just everyone. Just super supportive of all of y'all, just going and doing your thing.
Yeah, of course. All right, so second phase mechanics looking pretty good. Refuge already made. Going and continuing the Stark sequence here. Plenty of timer here. Yeah, looking good. Looking healthy on the ammo. Plenty of bricks in mid here as well for our damage phase. Just going to go ahead and finish up light while Nezarec is, of course, doing his lovely hatred animation. Boom, just in time. Perfect as usual. On the clock, on the dot there from Minus. Killing more of these ads, making use of that Nobel artifact mod that we mentioned earlier. Another little drive-by love tap from Nezarec. And we're just going to be finishing up Dark. And, you know, here's to another excellent damage phase. Another excellent damage phase. Dark being finished. And as you can see here, just like we mentioned during Explicator, a big part of this raid is being able to juggle doing these individual... Okay, wonderful. I'm glad Nezarec jumped away there. Perfect timing. Is being able to weave these actions in between all of your mechanics. So while you're finishing all the nodes, you have a little bit of time in between while you're traveling each single node plate. And Minus is just getting a little kill in between every single one to keep his Devour up. So good little survivability strategy from him there. Let's see the second phase. All right, there's the one impetus kill. Boop does not hit Minus. Looking excellent. Nezarec is just chilling. Let's see that thigh. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, excellent. No impetus kill on the second mag there, but not a huge deal. Good Nova Bomb timing there while he's TPing.
Wither Horde shot. And
Yep, stuck the Wither Horde. Oh, cook him, send him home. Beautiful. Oh, look at that health bar. Okay. We are in good spirits here.
Let's go.
Nice work. All right. We're entering our last phase here. Like we said before, just like Explicator, this boss has a 3-phase enrage, but you miss the final stand, you're in a lot more trouble, right? So, enrage is near. Last phase. Shoulder breaks. Pause. Enemy spawning in front of Minus while he's trying to shoulder break. Nice little shot there. Good aim.
Adding on to these little shots he's doing to clear some ads out, it's not just about keeping Devour going, it's also about just clearing them out. Like, the very act of killing the ads means that they're not there to keep shooting him. Makes that healing less important as time goes on. Especially those big colossi, because just like you saw in the second encounter, they point that minigun at you, you're going down quick.
Of course, yep. I mean, it's kind of funny how like monotonous the audio becomes because you're just used to hearing just a barrage of Colossus fire from every direction while you're like doing the notes. It's just boom, boom. It's like a drum beat, you know?
Yeah.
Just hearing that over and over again. But you get used to it, but it's kind of crazy that it's just, you know, you're just getting pelted this whole encounter. That's what this raid is. It's just getting pelted the whole encounter, every single encounter.
Not just the boom boom, but also the occasional deafening when you get shot with those blinding rockets.
Oh, nice little flick there.
Instant shot.
Yeah. I'm sure the solo community agrees with me if you guys are in chat, but like this raid is basically just doing mechanics while you're being pelted by 5 million Cabal and just getting resto from every node and basically just hopping from node to node as a bunch of little minions just absolutely rain down fire on you over and over again. I mean, at some points during second encounter, I just could not even count the amount of projectiles that were on Minus's screen. So good stuff from Minus. Going ahead, making that refuge, second refuge here. We're halfway through this mechanics phase.
So something I actually just remembered and noticed is despite these are Colossi, just like the second and third encounter, but different enemies of the same type can actually have different weapon loadouts. So these Colossi aren't as dangerous. Instead of having this insane minigun that'll melt you, they have this big, like, charge-up cannon that just goes boom, boom, boom. Still hurts, still dangerous, but not as dangerous. Although there are 3 of them constantly.
Yep, for sure. I mean, they've got different loadouts, you know, they're just like Guardians. They're build crafting, you know? Maybe they've decided the cannon. You know, the arc cannon is the move for this encounter.
Miniguns failed twice.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Okay, so we're on our way to our third damage phase here. Let's keep our fingers crossed for Minus. Here we are. Looking good. Healing turret deployed.
Damage.
Okay, here we go. Damage is starting.
Oh, he's over there. That's fine though.
Yeah. Not the worst.
He can't teleport there because he's far away. Is he going to?
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, nice. Over here.
Okay. Good impetus proc. Nice.
Nova Bomb, pushing the final here.
He has started final.
There's a roar. Now it's just Wither Horde, auto rifle, rocket. Auto rifle, rocket. Pretty straightforward.
One more.
And it's all
Cook.
There he
Let's
goes.
go. Nice work. I was honestly pretty worried for that final because you did mention you wanted to save your Nova for the final, but I am over the moon. Excellent. Nice stuff.
Very, very nice.
That's time also. Sorry.
GG's. Well done. Did you have any quick shout outs you wanted to give before we wrap things up?
He just said what I want to talk about for the solo tournament. Personally, I wanted to shout out a couple of my close friends, Zilla, Rin. I'm just gonna say their IRL names, they don't mind, Rowan and Nolan. They all support me. I love them. They're my closest friends, so they are what keep me doing this nonsense. I will tell you, on top of how physically draining like doing this is constantly, it is also as equally mentally draining.
Yeah,
But
for
there's
sure.
stuff that can happen.
I mean,
All right,
what
well,
would Destiny
thank you.
be without friends?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all so much for showing it off. We got to get snapping over to the next show, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us for Bungo-Thon tonight. Stay tuned for Speedruns from the Crypt that's coming up after this. And remember, no matter what your dreams, goals, or hopes are in this world, always keep them in your crosshair.